Folks. Got a lot of camera shows coming up here over the next 8 weeks. Going to be pretty interesting. Not just for camera bodies or lenses, of course, that's what everybody's looking for, but to see what else is included at these shows. So let me get the chat going here. Great premiere this morning by Vahagan with Claire School of Photography. I hope you guys watched that. I know I saw a lot of folks over there. I was in there as well. Very interesting conversation. If you guys haven't checked out Claire, you need to check her channel out. She's a breath of fresh air on YouTube, definitely, with her personality. Greg Wilson, dry in Northern California today. Yeah, I think it's going to be dry for you all for a little bit here. All those storms that are coming off the West Coast, though, are trickling through the interior of the states. It's bringing about some pretty terrific storms. Even today, there's a possibility of more storms down in Alabama, actually stretching from Alabama up to Kentucky, western Kentucky. So, man, anybody down in that area, stay safe. I watch Ryan Hall, y'all, on YouTube. He's a great meteorologist, explains things in simpler terms, and stays on top of what's going on. So I would suggest anybody in the lower 48 here, in the southern 48, subscribe to his channel, and he'll keep you up to date on what's going on. All right. How you doing, James? Good to see you. Dice, good to see you. Who else? Rakesh, how you doing? Anita Stewart, how are you? Nice to meet you. Glad you gave us came in to check us out. Let's see. Who else do we have in here right now? Greg Wilson, I don't know if I mentioned you yet. We'll get everybody in here in a minute. Got quite a few people out in the wings that are just watching or listening. All right. So you guys are bringing the topic today. The only thing that I have to talk about, I've been so busy, and I'm sorry about the terrible thumbnail, and Vahagan's been chastising me about my thumbnails, but we're gonna improve. We'll make sure that we knock that out here in the new year. Hey, good to see you. Terry Newman, how you doing? Just after 5 p.m. in the UK. J-Rod. Jim just ordered a nice F4. Jim, you're really all in on the film side now, man. I'm really happy to see you enjoying that. Mild weather that Alberta is bringing or is experiencing. Okay, nice, Anita. Glad to hear that. Martin Hild's in. All right, so do you guys have any expectations in any of these photo shows coming up? You've got Imaging USA that's coming up here in about 4 days down in Nashville, Tennessee. Looks like it's going to be a pretty good show. I checked it out. I checked their page out, and I don't know. It looks like it might be a lot of fun. I'm going to be sad that I missed that. I had an opportunity to go if it wasn't for so many things going on here at the house. And that would give me an opportunity to go down and see my grandchildren as well. But I didn't go. Anybody expecting anything from Imaging USA? It's going to be interesting to see what comes out. There could be some announcements there. Who knows? I know all the naysayers out there are saying that they don't expect anything. Imaging USA. We definitely didn't expect anything at CES, but we did get a look at the 85 1.2 for Nikon. Let's see. Right after that, we've got CP Plus in Japan coming up. And that's in the 24th through the 26th, I believe, in Japan. And, there definitely could be some announcements there. Who knows? maybe some development announcements. And I'm speaking on the Nikon side of things right now. Canon's done a great job of just letting us know what's coming and what's down the road. Been some great rumors in the Canon group. I don't know that Sony has anything. I didn't see any rumors about what we might expect from Sony. And right after CP Plus, we have WPPI out in Las Vegas, and that's going to be the 4th through the 9th, I believe, 4th or 5th through the 9th of March. So some pretty big shows coming up here in the near future. It's going to be interesting to see what comes out of those shows. Announcements, developmental announcements, or who knows what. I don't know. Of course, in the Nikon camp, we're all waiting for some kind of an announcement, developmental announcement, or just a plain out announcement of the Z8. And a lot of people sitting in the wings waiting on the 2 to 600. So I think between now and or over the next 8 weeks, we're going to hear something. So we'll have to wait and see. J-Rod, Finance Department said no to WPPI. Yeah, I'm looking forward to WPPI, as you may know. Some of you may know. Myself, Vahagan, Ronald Pollard will all be out at WPPI. Looking forward to meeting a lot of people while I'm out there. That's the big pull for me. The big reason to go out there is just to meet all these wonderful people that I've met now through the channel, and hope to get to see some of you there. I know it's not financially the right time for a lot of people. I understand that. Yeah, Greg, got the dimmer for the AP Studio sign back there finally. And now I can tone it down so you actually get the blue color of it. Making a few changes in the channel, in the studio. That kind of kept me busy. Yesterday, I was busy all day doing video for my stepson. We had the studio set up just for that. He's really happy. He's looking forward to the Z8. He loves the Z9 and the video capabilities, but he wants it in a smaller body. So hopefully we're going to hear something before long. Yeah, Terry taps fingers impatiently. You and I both. Ray Powell, shock announcement. Z8 canceled due to lack of consumer interest. Boy, that is the joke of the day there for certain. How you doing, Stuart? Good to see you in here. So I'm interested in what you guys have to say about any of the shows coming up, what you're expecting, and it can be in Canon, Nikon, Sony, Fuji, whatever. I think most of the brands have already dropped information about what to look forward to here in the next few months, except for Nikon, who is, of course, as always, quiet. Crickets. So hopefully we'll hear something on the Nikon side. The phone number, let me put the phone number back up. The phone line is open for anybody that would like to call in. You're welcome to call in and be on the show. I'm going to limit everybody to about 5 minutes if you're on the phone line today, only because that way we can keep the phone line open for other folks as well. Briar, how you doing? Been watching your photos on Facebook. Doing a great job over there. Always interesting to see what you're shooting. J-Rod Photo Art. Newsflash, Z8 spotted catching clear picture of Bigfoot. Yeah, we all go back to our Bigfoot conversation. And for those that don't know, weren't around for that, Bigfoot is naturally a blurry creature. So there is no bad photo of Bigfoot. That's just how he appears, even if you were to see him with the naked eye. Let's see, Greg. Let me throw this up here real quick. Chuck, can you take a minute to tell your Z6 Extreme manual focus dummy battery? What are your settings? It doesn't overheat. Yeah, I can go through that real quick. I can't give you all the connections because I run all the audio through the Rode Pro. Let's see. Audio's run through the Rode Pro, runs into my ATEM Mini Pro, which is also my switcher for all the video. and I can run 4 feeds into the A10 Pro. Right now, I just have the one camera, and that's running into the Z6, and it is the Z6, not the Z6 II. I'm extremely happy with this camera for what I use it for here on the stream. So I have the Z6 running, and I have a dummy battery that runs into the Z6, so it's powered, forever. And I have, well, as those of you know that were in the uh, stream for New Year's Eve, I think we ran just short of 7 hours and no problems, no overheating, no anything. Of course, I'm not recording with the Z6. I'm just running the video through the Z6, and I'm using the 14 to 30 Nikkor lens for that. It works out fantastic. I have an external monitor and another laptop set up to my left. For you, it would be my right, as you're looking at the screen here. That has I have the feed up on that so that I can monitor all the chat that goes on over there as well. And yeah, that's about it. With the Rode NT1A microphone running into the Rodecaster Pro. And it sounds simple, but if I were to try to explain how everything's connected, I'd get it all wrong. I'd have to go step by step and follow cables to actually explain it to you. But the A10 Mini Pro is a great little device as a switcher, and really happy with the audio out of the Rodecaster Pro, especially with the Rode NT1A. And that's it in a nutshell. I'd be glad to explain more if anybody has any specific. Oh, you wanted to know settings. So I don't know what I'm running right now. I think I'm at 1/60th of a second because I'm streaming in 4K, but it's, of course, by the time it goes through Restream, it's the output is 1080p. But I am streaming 4K into the application. And I have I've dropped this in the description before. I have a cheap, flexible LED mat that I put in a softbox and mounted it right overhead, right in front of me for my lighting. And it does a fantastic job. And I'd be happy to drop that in the description again if anybody is interested in it. And that's the setup. So there you have it. Terry Newman, almost bought a used A1 today. 200 clicks. Wow. I'd say new, almost new. 1,500 Great Britain pounds. Is that it? GBP? Let's see. Pause is really ought to grab a Z9 and be done with it. Life is too short to wait. You got to go with what you want, Terry. If you're really interested in a Z9, then I would say go for it. If you can pay for it, if the finances are there, then by all means pick up the Z9. However, that is a great deal on the A1. So, hang on a second. Sorry, I had opened up something I shouldn't have opened up there. Yeah, on let's see, on that Z9, man, I think you'll be happy with it. It just depends on what your budget is, but again, that's a great price on the A1, especially considering it's pretty much brand new. Leon says the 2 to 600 and the Z8 should be their priority for 2023. I agree. That's exactly what Nikon needs to do, and they need to do it sooner rather than later. At least we now know that we will see the 85 1.2. Of course, everybody's trying to figure out what the price will be. I don't think it'll be any more expensive than the 50 1.2. Based on what we've seen of it. It doesn't have the little LED screen on it like the 51.2 and other lenses. And there are some people that may not be happy about that, but that doesn't bother me, especially if it saves another couple $100 on that lens. I don't know. Greg got the dummy battery that I'd mentioned before. Yeah, you can buy the Nikon brand, of course, and that's fine, but you're gonna save about a hundred and a few dollars if you buy the off brand. and I had made sure that I researched and made sure that it would work. I bought one off of, off Amazon, and it works fine. I've run it in the Z6 II. The dummy battery that I'm running right now in the Z6 is the Nikon brand. And yes, it does cost a premium. Darren Francis on his Z6 II repair. My Nikon Z6 II repair, they replaced the PCB board, cost me $400. Wow. I'm really surprised that it was no more than $400, Darren. I know you didn't want to pay that, considering, but it surprised me that it was no more than $400. What really surprised me is it was the PC board. I'd be interested, and I'm sure everybody else would, in what problems you were having to send it back to Nikon for repair. Good evening. How you doing, Yaman? Good to see you in here as always. Clear picture Bigfoot's always a fake, or obviously a fake. Yes, it is, Ray. And we know now after that big conversation we had about it. James talking about the 2 to 600. If we don't see it this year, what the heck? Yeah, I agree. I think they've missed out big time in not getting us that 2 to 600. Again, folks, I'm not interested in that lens, but I do have interest in everyone getting that lens that wants it, and it's been on the roadmap forever. So that's definitely something that Nikon needs to concentrate on and get some information out. All right. So Albert dropped some information in the chat before we went live talking about a new adapter. So here's his comment just now. The Contax G1, G2 lenses are the lenses you autofocus on Z mount. The G lenses are among the greatest lenses ever produced for film and digital cameras, according to many people. And you also talked about an adapter that would allow us to focus Zeiss lenses. And is that what we're talking about here? You got to learn me, Albert. You got to learn me, man. Let's see. Greg wants to know what's needed to connect the Z6 II to his PC. Well, one thing you can do, Greg, is you can use Nikon's software, Nikon Connect or whatever it is. I can't remember. That is one possibility. What I would recommend anybody doing that's going to connect their DSLR or Z camera or other mirrorless camera to your computer is don't record at the same time in camera. That could cause an overheating problem. I know it does on the Z30. The Z30 will live stream forever as long as you don't try to record in camera. That will cause a heating problem. I don't know if it would on the Z8 or Z9. I doubt you'd run into too much trouble on the Z9, but who's going to buy a Z9 for streaming? Alan Barnes, good to see you. Evening in Kent. Yes, sir. Let's see. Terry, I got sick of waiting, got the A1 almost 2 years ago. You should be able to pick up a Z9 easily now, though. That is true. Z9s are available now. Absolutely true. Michael, how you doing, Michael? You guys, I understand you guys are high and dry right now in California. Somebody already talked about that. Chuck talks all day, every day. Photography, technology. Hello to everyone in the chat room, plus everybody that's watching. Thanks, Michael. Thanks, man. Everybody's saying hello to Alan. And it's a good point. James offers up, you need a USB-C cable to connect to PC. And it's really a pretty cut and dry connection there with Nikon's connection utility. Let's see. Albert. Man, you guys are dropping the comments. Trying to keep up with you here. Okay. So Darren's talking about his Z6 II problem. The problem I have is the camera is not recognizing the SD card. I couldn't shoot with just the XQD card, so or wasn't recognizing the SD card. Yeah, and couldn't shoot with just the XQD card. Had no choice but to send it back. Very annoying. Yes, I would imagine it was, especially considering then you had to drop another $400. It's a shame it was that far out of. It's a shame that uh, the daggone warranty doesn't cover that. Oh. David Brandsma, keep up the good work, sir. May need to rant to wake up, folks. Seeing used Z9 selling for $4,700. Man, that's a good price, too. As long as it had been run through the mud. All right, so we're caught up. So, what do you guys want to talk about? Again, I bring up all these shows because this is where we're going to hear everything typically. I don't know what our next show will be moving into the spring and summer, but CP Plus being an extremely large show, and of course it is in Japan, so it's going to be interesting to see what comes out of that. WPPI, not so much a announcement show. However, anything announced at CP Plus, you can expect to see on the counters out at the displays at WPPI, I'm sure. So I'm hoping that I get to actually see a Z8 and a 2-600 and whatever else Nikon's going to drop. And I'll be happy to look at the Canon booth and the Sony booth and everything else to bring any news that they have. So I'm going to try to go live while we're out there at the show. I don't know how that's going to work, if it's even possible, but I'm going to try to do it. Obviously not on this setup, but maybe from the phone while we're out there. I'm sure everybody'd like to see what's going on. So again, Imaging USA, it looks pretty promising for a show. I wasn't expecting much, but if you go to their page on YouTube, Imaging USA 2023, you'll get to see a kind of a snapshot of what to expect down there. I know that there are some YouTubers that are going. Kind of wish I had gone, but not going to make it. It starts in almost 4 days, and we'll have to see if there are any hints or anything that drop during the show. Michael, what is Nikon going to release this year? Well, of course, high hopes for the Z8 and the 2-600, of course. We know we're going to get the 85 1.2 and we're going to get the 26 millimeter pancake lens. That's a 2.8. Not a lens that I'm really interested in, but the 85 I am interested in. That's the one lens I've been holding out for. Yeah, Yaman, again, back to who knows what Nikon's going to surprise us with. We hope that we're going to get surprised, but the 2-600 is definitely that has to come out this year. I can't see how Nikon can avoid dropping that lens. Okay, I'm still lost here, Albert, but I'm going to put this up here. TechArt unveiled the first Carl Zeiss Contax G-mount lenses. Okay, G-mount lenses. To the Z-mount autofocus lens adapter featuring continuous autofocus settings, eye detection, and in-body image stabilization. Man, that is incredible. The technology is just leaping forward. So here we go. I wonder who's going to be the first to drop in the chat that they want screw mount drive lenses to be an adapter for screw mount drive lenses. I don't know if we're going to see it, but who knows? Hero shots, 2-600, sad face. Yes, it needs to come out now. I agree 100%. Yeah. J-Rod talking about used his Z6 as much as possible with birds in flight, then upgraded the Z9 lookout birds. Yeah, somebody was talking the other day, and here we go. Maybe today is a good day for some rants on some of the things that have been posted or talked about recently. But somebody was talking about Nikon, doesn't need Nikon needs to get a Pro DX body out ASAP because so many people are wanting it. And yes, I know that there are people that want that camera body. And I agree. I think Nikon needs to do a Pro APS-C body. But think about it. The D500 came along. It was the first really pro body, since full frame had become standard in Nikon. It was the first APS-C pro body, and it took how long to get that? So I'm not saying Nikon needs to sit on their laurels and not look at this opportunity, because there are a lot of people that are looking at APS-C for especially wildlife and birding. Not to mention, of course, just APS-C having a pro body that they could use for other things as well. But of course, they're going to have to really massage the lenses for APS-C. My point is that Nikon does not have a full frame lineup yet. And based on the comment that you just made, James or Jim, the Z6, Z6 II, Z7, Z7 II, this was the first entry into mirrorless for Nikon, as everybody knows. And we all know that Nikon had to jump in and jump into the mirrorless foray. And the Z6 II and Z7 II were just a quick fix to the major problem with the Z6 and Z7, which was a single card slot, because everybody was just beating Nikon up. Of course, Canon caught a little flack too with their initial entry being a single card slot, but Nikon was getting beat down relentlessly. So the Z6 II and the Z7 II fixed that problem and brought just a little bit more tech to the bodies. So right now, they don't count in the mirrorless lineup for Nikon, in my opinion. Everybody can argue and fight with me because everybody would like all this new AF tech dropping down into the lower bodies for Nikon. That's why I say Nikon has a single camera lineup right now with the Z9. Yes, the Z6, I'm using it now. I told you I love it for this and everything else. You can use it in the studio. Same thing with the Z7. But nobody wants to buy backward technology. Everybody wants to buy so that they're moving into the future, meaning there's a longevity in their camera. This is why Nikon's got to get this Z8, Z7 III, Z6 III out. My opinion again. Anybody wants to discuss it, we can discuss it further, absolutely. And I'd welcome you to call in. Let me put the phone number up if you'd like to discuss it. But right now, Nikon needs to center on the lower prosumer and consumer cameras under the Z9. I don't know if you guys agree, disagree, but at least that's my feelings. If Nikon can produce a lineup for the full frame, and I'm not doing this because full frame's the greatest thing since sliced bread. This is about where most people want to be in the lineup is full frame. Yes, I know, again, there are so many people out there waiting for the APS-C body, but I think that comes later in 2023. If not even 2024. So you can beat me up. Nikon's not listening to me, by the way. So anybody that thinks I'm influencing Nikon, you can forget about that. My picture's up in Nikon USA as a dartboard, and they throw darts at it because I've picked on Nikon USA so much. And yes, I'm a Nikon shooter, but I'm not a fanboy to the point that I'm going to excuse everything they do. So, all right, let me make sure I don't get too far into a rant just yet. Let's see. Hey, Miller Ed, good to see you in here. Yeah, that's another good point too. We can start an argument here with people that really love and support third party, but you would expect Nikon's 2-600 to be a Nikkor lens, not a rebranded Tamron or Sigma or anything else. And by the way, that new Sigma lens, what, 60 to 600? I tell you, I don't know. I haven't seen anybody using it yet, but I don't like that push pull zoom. I don't know how you guys feel about it. That's one of the things that I don't think I'd care for. So Jim's saying he's gotten some great bird and flight shots with the Z6 and Z50. It can be done with any camera, and that's where I go all the time, Jim, is, I'm tired of people telling me that, well, you can get any shot you want with the Z6. It's a great, you can get any shot you want with a film camera. It may take some time. It's definitely not as easy. So the whole point is ease of performance. And that's where all this new technology comes in. If you don't want it and you don't care about it, that's fantastic. Then don't worry about it. But don't beat us up when we're on in a chat talking about it. I know everybody doesn't want it, but you know what? This is what technology is bringing: ease of photography. Let's see. Yeah, and this is another good point, Ray. I agree. It's not backwards technology if other processors are used. And my prediction is the only thing you're going to see in Nikon full frame and this Pro DX body will be the XP 7 processor. I mean, it's a must now for piping all this information and moving information so quickly, especially with EVFs and everything else. And by the way, the EVF in the Z9 is fantastic. I have no problems with it. Everybody a lot of people, DSLR and OVF, are worried that it's going to give them headaches or it's going to be jittery or jumpy. No, Nikon's figured that out. And at 120, what is it? 120, I can't remember the technical term. That EVF is clear. It's fast. I don't see any lag. And by the way, Nikon also added the ability to adjust the brightness of the EVF, which really makes a difference between studio and outdoor work. Ben Williams, how you doing, Ben? I've shot with the Z6, Z7 II, and Z9. Agree with you 110%. I love all three, but the truth is the truth. Absolutely. And again, I'm not a fanboy, folks. You should know that by now. I'm not going to be the one that's out there saying, oh, you don't need, you do whatever, blah, blah, blah. I can do anything you can do with my Z6. No, you can't. No, you can't. You can't do everything the Z9 can do. And oh, by the way, let me throw in video. A lot of people are shooting video today. And I know I know so many people hate to hear that because you have to buy a camera with video in it, but that's a big deal for the video shooters. They don't want to, or they're waiting to upgrade to get out of the Z6 and the Z7 series into the newer Z6 III, Z7 III models because they're looking for 10-bit internal. If you don't shoot video, that doesn't make any sense to you and you don't care. But for anybody that's shooting video, especially any kind of run and gun or outside a studio for video, that's a big deal. It's a real big deal. So, there are a lot of things we're expecting from Nikon. Nikon's shown us their hand. They can do it. Now, maybe that was their mistake. They shouldn't have shown us they could do it because now we want it. And here comes the petulant side of me, the petulant child side of me. And we want it now. So, Nikon, let's go. Let's get moving. All last year, we got a Z30, one camera body. Oh, I'm sorry. We got a repainted ZFC too that you can only buy in UK. I don't know what that's all about. And I just saw that I'm not going to pick on Matt Irwin, but he's doing another review of the ZFC in black. I mean, did it change anything about how it takes photos? I'm sorry, it's in black. Okay, good. Great. Got it. But now Nikon is expected to bring 3 cameras to the table this year. Well, I don't know if they're expected. We expect it, but I don't know how many others expect it. But I've heard so many people talking about what Nikon's going to bring to the table this year. You couldn't produce any last year, but you can produce 3 this year. I want to see that. I really want that to happen. All right. Oh, hey, so I didn't know this, Yaman. So I'm bouncing around here in between your comments, folks. There's a zoom ring. Okay, I didn't know that. I thought it was just push pull. Okay, well, that makes it much better, in my opinion. Um, so Leon asked, how would you feel if Tamron made the 2 to 600? I think everybody's waiting for the Nikkor writing on the 2 to 600, it being a Nikkor lens. But if Tamron did it and did it well, I'm sure. Well, even if they did it and Nikon did it, they did it on their own. I think there are still going to be people that are going to be moved to buy Tamron. I think we're talking about price point now. When we talk about third party, we've always talked about that in price point. However, the quality for third party lenses has come up incredibly here in the last few years. So really looking forward to see what Sigma brings to the table for everybody as well. That should be something we should hear maybe in one of these photo shows. So you could, at WPPI, I'd like to be able to see, put my hands on, and look at some of the Sigma lenses that are coming out in Z mount. We know they're coming. Maybe this is something we're going to hear about over the next 8 weeks. Robert, how you doing, sir? Good to see you. I got to put my phone number back up here. Good to see you, buddy. Nikon's forbidden their employees to subscribe to me. No doubt about that. And they're convincing people to unsubscribe because I've noticed that here lately. I guess I'm getting boring, man. I gotta do something to pick it up. Maybe rants are the way to go. Where's Vahagan? I don't know. He just did his premiere earlier with Claire School of Photography. And it was a great, he had Frames TM in there as well. It was a great Vahagan talk. Fantastic. And again, I say Claire is a breath of fresh air on YouTube because she's real, and I hope she keeps it that way. Yeah, Andre, I just got that. I did not know that the Sigma was push-pull in addition to the zoom ring. So that too will be interesting to see how that works out. Lens creep is always a big problem when you have that ability to do the push-pull. Even when it's not push-pull, on my old 24 to 120, the G, man, lens creep was terrible on that lens. It wasn't a bad lens. I know it didn't sell extremely well. I got it at a premium price, so I bought it way back when, and it served me well for as long as I needed it. Jim says again, the 2 to 600 better be all Nikon. Well, we'll find out. We'll see. Anita asking, has anyone experienced Lightroom not recognizing the camera lens on all Z6 II photos? Yes, I've noticed that, but I know that there's a way that you can update the lens database. I just never learned how to do it. That's within Lightroom, and I guess Photoshop. Yeah, no profile found. I've noticed that too, Anita. I'm sure somebody's going to be able to answer the question here as to how you can go about updating that. Leon talking about using the Z6 II. Fantastic little camera. It'll do wildlife, but much harder to nail shots of anything moving compared to the Z9. Absolutely. Absolutely. And again, but you'll have people that will argue with you, Leon, and say, no, it's just this guy can do anything in the world with it. And I'm happy for you. I'm really happy that you can do that. Maybe you need to get on YouTube and teach how to best use the Z6 II or Z7 II in wildlife photography, because it doesn't hold a candle to the Z9 or the A1 or the R3. Okay, so let's just throw it out there on the table. This isn't just about the Z9. So many cameras. The R7, the Canon R7, which is relatively new. I mean, come on, Nikon. Let's get the AF going in the lower tier cameras. And they know this. I know they know it. And it's not because I've said it, but they know it based on consumer feedback. Let's see. Let me keep moving here. Uh, uh, this is a good question, too. Let me drop your question in here, Millerad. What would be optimal period for refresh line with new camera models? Before was 4 years, now 2 plus. Are we looking at 1 year refresh like phones due to competition? Okay, so let's first address the 4 year refresh. That's not entirely true, especially on the flagships. For the most part, the flagships had an S model. D3, D3S, D4, D4S, not a D5S because they just came out. I think Nikon was pushing to get, they had the D6 in development, and rather than do a refresh with a D5, they just decided to go to the D6. Why? Because they knew mirrorless was on the horizon. So we did have almost 2 year progression on refresh in at least the flagships. Sorry, just had an alert there. And with the D800 series, let's just say 800 series, 800, 810, 850, that was a pretty quick refresh rate too. But the only thing that we had before that was the only full frame that we had before that was really the D700. We had the D600, D610, and D750. And then we had a slew of APS-C bodies. So now moving forward, what should the refresh rate be? And I think you're talking about 1 year refresh like phones due to competition. I don't think we'll see a 1 year. However, I think 2 years may become more standard than what it was before for new models. And for that reason, because of the competition, technology is moving so quick right now in the camera world, it's hard to keep up. And nobody wants to be shooting with a camera that's 2 years behind in technology. I shouldn't say nobody. Of course, there are people that will. But it's again, a money game. And why shouldn't Nikon capitalize on revenue like everybody else with refreshed bodies, every 2 years? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. What do you guys think? And this is another topic, Z9 update or upgrade for another 4 years. One of the prolific speakers of Nikon, Tom Hogan, has already said he wouldn't be surprised to see a D9S or something variation or whatever D or Z9 II. He wouldn't be surprised to see that in the next couple of years, which I thought was pretty interesting. So maybe that tells you when the technology was developed for the Z9. That's been over a year and a half, 2 years ago. Maybe they already have other things in line, which brings me to a point. Do not be surprised if the Z8 exceeds the Z9 in some areas. I know it sounds crazy, but they have to keep up with the times. They have to keep up with the other manufacturers and with the technology out there. Are they just going to leave technology on the bench and say, here's a Z8, even if it just rivals the Z9 in certain areas, knowing that technology is there and waiting? I don't think so. I think Nikon is changing their game. I think you will see some, in the Z8, you will see some specs that surpass the Z9. Call me crazy, but I was crazy when I actually said the Z9 would only be $5,500. Everybody, oh, you're crazy. It's going to be $7,000 or $8,000. So anyway, call me crazy. Manila Martin says, I'd love to see compressed raw get into all their cameras. I don't know how far it's going to go down initially, but eventually it will be in all the cameras, just like everything else goes in in the lifespan of a brand. Everything will eventually find its way down to the lowest denominator. But I think you'll definitely see it in the Z9, or Z8. I'm sorry. So let me ask a question there. Well, here's Long Rider. Let me acknowledge Mr. Long Rider in here. Leon says he can't even watch Matt Irwin's videos. I don't watch him. He's a good guy. He's a nice guy. Again, I go back to, he's the Mr. Rogers, TV show here in America for kids for so long. He's the Mr. Rogers of the photo world. He's just always happy, cheery, and there's nothing wrong with that. But yeah, I don't watch all of his stuff, but he does have some videos every now and then that intrigue me. So what I was going to say is, what was I going to say? Not raw compressed. Oh, so if the Z8 is, let's just say the Z8, I'll give the people that are screaming that the Z8 needs to be a very high megapixel camera, whether it's the on-the-shelf 61 megapixel Sony sensor, or whether it's a newly developed sensor that's 70 or 80 megapixel, which I think would be crazy. But let's say that it is the 61 megapixel sensor. Then what do you do with the Z7? What does the Z7 III become? Do you just get rid of that line, the Z7 line? Or if the Z8 is the baby Z9 with tweaks to what new technology is out there for the Z8, if it becomes the baby Z9, then what is the Z7 series? The Z7, in the chart that I put up a while back, Z8 becomes the baby Z9, which is something everybody's wanting. Everybody wants a Z9 in a smaller package. I think this checks the block for that. You already have all the technology that you need, plus whatever's been developed since the development of the Z9. And rumor was the Z8 was developed first. They decided to go with the Z9 though instead. So if we have all that technology in parts bins for a Z8 in a smaller body, then the Z7 III could become that extreme portrait, studio, landscape, product photography camera that so many people want as well, that doesn't need the super high frame rate or all the other bells and whistles that go into an all-rounder. Otherwise, what is the Z7? If the Z6 or Z8 becomes what the Z7 or the Z7 was heading, then what do we do with the Z7 series? Be interested to hear your comments on that. Okay, so Matt Irwin said it's a stealth camera because I guess it's an all black body. Strange that as I could still see it. So street photography, I guess, maybe. But you know what? I've been out shooting street photography with my D5. I didn't have any problems. People weren't running away from me like I had 3 heads or anything. You want to shoot street photography? You can shoot street photography with anything you have. Martin says that, Matt Irwin has so much energy and he loves that. Yeah, I agree. And there's the Mr. Rogers. It's always on an up note. And maybe that's good in a YouTube world where there's so much hate going on. So Robert, good question. Did Nikon open up some of their mothballed factories to meet demand? I don't know what Nikon's doing. I mean, they hired a bunch of professionals, a bunch of corporate type folks, back last year. I think that's for their new headquarters that looks fantastic in the renderings that we saw of the new headquarters. I haven't seen anything yet as far as a finished product, but I don't know. And, this may go back to this. We're all out to eat crow, and I'm willing to do that. If it was a supply issue with Nikon, and I got to believe Nikon was affected more so than Canon, Sony, Fuji, and everybody else, because they kept announcing cameras and actually providing cameras. So I don't know. I don't know how Nikon's going to give us 3 camera bodies this year. And Nikon hasn't said that they will. By all means, don't take this as, Nikon said it, therefore they have to do it. They have not said anything. But we all hope for those other bodies along with our along with all the lenses and everything else they're producing. I don't know if they can do it or not. Just going to have to wait and see. Yeah, Leon, we were just talking about that 60 to 600. They just released that. I guess I know they announced it. I guess they've released it. My question about it was the push-pull, but I've been corrected and told that it is push-pull for zoom, but it also has a zoom ring on it. I haven't seen anything yet. Hang on a minute. Hello. No, not hearing anything. Nope. Thought we had a call. And we are connected, so we should be good. Sorry, folks. All right. So back to Sigma. Yes, they have. Anybody who's had their hands on it and wants to provide us with some information, by all means, do so. Hang on, let me check email, see if anybody's. Nope. Let's see. So Terry says that's an issue for many. Some want a do-it-all camera, some want smaller form factor but capability of bigger cameras. Some want big cameras. Some, like me, couldn't give two hoots about video. You know what, Terry? And I understand that a lot of people don't care about video, but I hope you're not one that's aggravating everybody about when they're talking about video capability as well in a camera, because it does not take away from stills photography. No matter how much video they put in the camera, Nikon is keeping stills in body as well. So these become hybrid cameras. And, there are a lot of people, though, that are looking for the video capabilities. Just don't become a video hater when it comes to the camera body. Huff, good to see you. Haven't seen you in a while, buddy. I know you've been busy. You guys need to get over and check out Huff Photo on YouTube. Michael's talking about Viltrox. Viltrox and TT Artisans, 7 artisans in all, have done a great job on these lenses that they're producing for as third-party lenses. A lot of people are migrating to them, and you heard Diana Ishii the other night talking about her Viltrox lens. I'm sorry, TT Artisan lens on her Leica. Now, some people in the Leica camp may say that's just blasphemy to do that. I don't think that she cares, and she's going for what works for her. And she spoke very highly of the TT Artisan's lens. So, yeah. All right. And Yaman saying, yes, they have a lock for the zoom ring. And while that's great in carry mode, but if you're running around, and I'm not picking on this lens by any means, I don't know how well it'll work, whether there will be lens creep or not. But engaging and disengaging, I know it sounds like it's nothing to it, but if you're doing a carry around, and if you're carrying 2 cameras, especially, I know a lot of people don't do that. I'm kind of crazy that way. And it's hanging off the strap, and you get that lens creep. It just drives me nuts. But it's nice that it does have a lock, so you can lock it if you're just running around and not using that lens very much. It can be locked at every focal length too. Okay, cool. All right, that works. That makes it even better. So you guys are really selling this lens now, because I didn't know all these things. I haven't watched any of the videos really where they're explaining the lens. So good to know. And 60 to 600 is a huge range, man. Talking about a one lens does all, man. That's incredible. Be curious to see the resolution with that lens at all these focal lengths. I'm sure it can't be perfect across the spectrum, but with the technology today, it seems like we're getting better and better at being able to make some pretty sharp, pretty quality lenses, outside the major brands. Huff Photo says he wasn't extremely happy with his Viltrox. Took quite a bit of tune for the Z6 and Z7. I haven't fooled with them, so I wouldn't know. And I'm not opposed to third party. I love seeing third party drop lenses right and left, but I just stick with my Nikon. And it's not because I'm a fanboy. Lord knows that isn't true. Joe Man's Land, good to see you in here. I hope everybody's checking out Joe Man's Land on YouTube. He's got some great videos. He's doing quite a bit with third-party lenses and adapted lenses. So you need to make sure you check him out. Good to see you, Joe. Ionis says the 2-600 has an internal, let's see. If the 2-600 has internal zoom like the Sony one, it will sell like crazy. Yeah. Man, that's going to be, yeah, I don't know because it's not an S lens. It's going to be interesting to see what the 2-600 actually looks like. We've seen the shadow on the roadmap, but yeah, it's going to be interesting. Going to be interesting. Hopefully, we will see that sooner rather than later, Nikon. So J-Rod Photo Art, Jim says the 2-6 better have something about it that is better or different than just the 2-500. Oh, there's going to be a comparison. You can bet on that. Whenever it does get released, there will be comparisons out the yang. Everybody will be comparing it to the 2-500. And then you're going to have a whole camp of people that say there's no reason to buy the 2-600 native lens when you can adapt with the FTZ, the 2-500, and the extra 100 millimeter focal length doesn't make a big difference. So get ready for all those chats and debates and bloodletting. It's going to happen. And of course, it's going to get compared to the Sony 2-600. So, yeah, I'm just curious to see, since it's not a S lens too, just, you know, what's the aperture range going to be on it? Is it going to be a 4.5 to 5.6, or is it going to go to 6.3, or who knows? And that's one of the things that Roy Bigsby, he'd love to see it be a across the board aperture, whether it's 4.5, 5.6, or something like that. But I don't know if Nikon's going to do that in a non-S lens. And why would that be a non-S lens? I guess for price? I don't know. What do you guys think? Yeah, talking about scan speed, you need a stacked sensor. So I think the Z8 will have a stacked sensor. Will the Z7 III and Z6 III? Everybody's talking about cost. It's cost prohibitive. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to find out. Definitely going to be interesting to find out. But I think stacked sensors is going to continue to become more and more, common over the next few years till we get to the point where it's common throughout all the models in any brand, I think. Martin says the 2-500 was pretty awesome. I never shot the 2-500. I had the 80-400 that I used. It served me well, and I was never tempted to get the 2-500, but I know a lot of people were. Man, I wish I was. I almost went Huff. I almost went down to Imaging USA. We were talking about it earlier. So it starts in 4 days or three and a half days. Are you going? And if you're going, man, you gotta definitely keep us up to date on what's going on out there at Imaging USA. Looks like it's going to be a pretty good production. So I'm hoping that it is. I know Seth Miranda said, I was watching Daniel Norton the other day, and I don't know how it came up or or whatever. I know he's going down. He's going to do a seminar on speed lights or something. J-Rod says the 2-500 is still awesome, though. Let's see. Um, and Daryl saying he's hoping again that the 2 to 600 will be internally focusing. That alone will be a nice change. Z equivalent lenses have been sharper, so I'd be okay with those two. Yeah, the Z lineup has definitely been sharp. I don't think there's a dud lens in the Z lineup. Even the lens now, a non-S lens that everybody raves about that has it is that 40 millimeter 2.8. It's not a kit lens. I mean, it's a economical, low budget lens in the Nikon lineup, but everybody loves it. So maybe that gives us a peek into what we can expect with the 2 to 600 being non-S. -5 and up in Canada for Mr. Joe Man's Land. Is that Celsius or Fahrenheit? If that's Fahrenheit, that's bitter cold. Wow, getting pretty cold for you, Ray. I saw that Claire was talking about it's pretty cool over there in UK right now. Let's see. Let's see. I'm way behind again, aren't I? Jim, I'm just going to keep saying it will not. Because I don't want it to have a 61 megapixel sensor. I want it to have the same stack sensor in the Z9. Will they do it? I think they will. We shall find out. We shall find out. But I do not want a higher megapixel sensor in the Z8. And I got to tell you, if it is, they're going to have to really prove something to me. It will not be I'm buying it right, as soon as it's available. I may be interested. I have the Z9. I may be interested in just waiting for the Z6 III if that's the case. Then I have all versions of the Z6 series. Not that that matters, but I may opt for a Z6 III. I do not want to see a higher megapixel sensor in the Z8 unless they have found some absolute magic. All right, hang on a second. We got a call. All right, hang on, caller. I'm coming. All right, who do we have? Hello.
Good evening, Mr. Chuck. This is Yaman. How are you?
Hey, Yaman. Good to hear you, sir. I am fine. How about yourself?
I'm very good. Thank you. Happy New Year. I hope all's going well so far.
Yes, sir. Going well so far.
Excellent. So, Chuck, I just wanted to put something out there. Maybe, I don't know, it's a comment/question about the AF of the Z7, Z7 II actually, or the Z6 II, because I assume they both have the same autofocus system. So recently I have been on a trip where, for the first time ever, probably I tried to shoot some wildlife. And we're talking about very big subjects here. We're talking about some goats, some chicken, some things like that. So farm animals, if you will.
Right.
And one of the things that really blew my mind is that I tried every single autofocus mode I could think of to try and track them properly, to try and get them in focus. But I kept on reverting to the single autofocus point. Now, when I shared this online on several videos talking about the AF, I got several people telling me how far TSM and that sort of thing, and know how to use your gear. But there are some others that suggested maybe because you had your focus settings on shutter release rather than on focus, which was not the case. Have you tried continuous for you on single? I tried both. I tried wide area AF. I tried small area AF, continuous single, and my hit rate was about 40%. I'd like to believe that after, like, I don't know, 30 plus years shooting stuff, I know a bit more than that. Now, when I tried at the same trip, I had my R10, and I promise you, I know nothing about the settings in this camera. I just shot, and it had a much higher focus acquisition rate. And the thing is, I was getting focus confirmation on the Z7 too, but many of the final images I got were blurry. So again, I find our community usually tends to defend a bit more. So that's more of a comment versus maybe I'm doing something wrong. Maybe there's this magical setting I haven't figured out. But between subject tracking, between AF wide area, small area, continuous, single, what could I have missed? And my second question is to everybody who defends the amazing performance of the current Z cameras is, why does it have to be so complicated? Why should I go through all of these and try to figure something out? I shot with a D3X actually. I shot with a D800, and I never had to break my head over a focus mode to try and figure out what to do. So why is it my fault that I don't know how to use this gear? Or is it really that the gear is more complicated than it should be? So I don't know.
Man.
And why could I just pick the R10 and just take shots, and it had a much better focus just out of the box? I don't even know what setting the camera was on, to be very honest with you.
Yeah,
so just that.
You said a mouthful. I mean, a mouthful there, Yaman, because, you know, this is something that a lot of people have talked about. And you go to any forum and you say that you have an issue, and immediately you're the problem, not the camera. They want to defend the cameras. I mean, come on, people, let's be honest with ourselves. Some people may have more success than others or whatever, but let's face it, the AF and the Z6 series and the Z7 series is nothing compared to what you're getting now with the Z9. But now let me make this point too. The Z9 has a very complicated AF system in it. And when I say complicated, it's very menu driven, and there's so many settings to cipher through on the Z9 to find what works best for you or for a particular subject. But you're absolutely right. Why can't you pick up a Z6? Why couldn't you pick up a Z6 II and just go shoot with it rather than having to revert back to? And I've told people that you can do this, of course. And I did it with the Z9 initially because I was so confused with the AF system in it. I went back to single point autofocus. It was, you know, and recompose, focus, recompose, because I couldn't figure out the autofocus system in the camera. Now, I do know that some of it wasn't just my fault. The camera was experiencing a few problems, and that's one of the reasons for so many firmware updates. And they've done an extremely good job in, you know, with the firmware updates and making this a bit simpler. But you know, I agree with you. You know, and everybody says, well, a pro, blah, 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 you know, everything's manual and we're going to do everything. You know, you don't need the camera if you can't use the camera correctly or whatever, blah, blah, blah. And I'm not saying shoot in auto mode, but why can't it be simpler? And I think that in the Z6 series and Z7 series that come out next, it has to be a more simplified autofocus setup. The Z8, I think it's going to be right along the lines of the Z9. But in the Z6 and Z7 series, I don't know why they couldn't simplify with all this new autofocus technology. But, you know, I'm glad to hear you at least talking about it. And you've compared it to the R system in Canon. Why can't it be that simple? I agree with you. Why shouldn't I be able to pick it up and just go shoot? Yeah, go ahead.
And absolutely. And the thing is, if I look at the R10, you know, I paid like, what, $800, $900 for the R10.
Yeah.
And I paid like $2,000 for the Z7 too.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I get it. There must be something that's can improve my hit rate, but why does it have to be so well hidden? It's like the camera is trying to test my intelligence. And yeah, I can read the manual, but I didn't have to read the manual for the past 20 so bodies I see. I just figured things out. And I've been shooting quite a bit with the E7 too. But I just couldn't find that right mode that would take me there. And some of the names of the modes suggest that this is right. Like if I look at English, wide area, autofocus, animal subject tracking, that should be fine. It makes sense that this should work within that area. Or, okay, if I put it into a smaller area, that should pick it up. And if I'm talking about a ghost that's like 15 meters away from me. I'm not talking about a bird that's like, I don't know,
no,
800 feet away from me.
Right.
Yeah.
It should be simple. I'm going to answer Mr. Wolf's comment here. He's asking Joe Man's land, talking about Z6's recording 10-bit 422 internally. No, it does not, Mr. Wolf. And that's one of the complaints from the video side of the house. For those that are looking at the Z series for video, is it doesn't shoot it internally. And for those that don't shoot video, they don't understand why that's a big deal. So I'm not even going to, I won't even argue with anybody that, well, why is that a big deal? Just go buy a Cine camera. No, this is a big deal for those that shoot video. All right, back to what you're saying. So Photo Me Ike's in here as well. I'm sure you're following the chat, Yaman. He says, depending on what you shoot, it really is simple. I only use 2 focus modes on my Z6 and Z9. Ike, if you would share what mode you're using, it might help out with what we're talking about here.
And Joanna said that dynamic area should work as well. So, I mean, I don't know if I tried dynamic area. I don't think I have. So I'll try that. Thank you, Joanna. And if Ike can share also whatever he recommends. So it's just a comment and a question, a genuine question, not trying to take a jab, but this is a personal experience and a bit of a disappointment that I faced personally. So just wanted to put this out there. I'll not take more of your time. Thank you so much for taking the call, Chuck, and we'll speak soon.
Thank you very much, Yaman. No problem with taking the call. You're welcome anytime.
Thank you, sir.
All right, sir. Have a great evening.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right. Yeah, good question. And, you guys remember, when I got my Z9, for those that were around in the very beginning, I refused to even talk about it for the first few weeks because I found it to be extremely complicated because I'm coming from a D5 and I just assumed I'd pick up the Z9 and just take off. But it is a completely different camera. So anybody that's upgraded to a Z9 from anything, I'm sure you found it the same way. Ike, how are you doing, buddy? Jay Kimmer says he only uses 2 focus modes. This is the one I find myself in most of the time. Large, wide area, same thing. I really wanted to be able to use all the sensors on the camera. So full frame with eye detection in the studio. And it didn't work so well. But using a large wide area for eye and face detect, as you mentioned here, Jay, it works fantastic for me in the studio. I don't know why it had to be so difficult. And supposedly, and I haven't tested it yet with 3.01, a firmware update on the Z9, the tracking is better. But I don't use AF tracking. Maybe I should. And here you go. I have the camera, and I'm going to ask this question because I don't know. Is AF tracking full time once you engage, or do I have to continue to hold the AF button or half press the shutter button? J-Rod, still a lot to learn with the Z9. And Yeah, there is. And I'm not saying this to scare people off, but don't think that you can pick a Z9 up and you've got it figured out in 10 minutes. It's a very complicated camera. It really is. But like I said, for people that had trouble, do what I did, go back to single point autofocus and recompose. It works just fine. I know for you bird shooters and wildlife shooters, they don't want to do that. They want to use all the capability in AF in the camera. Ray, you were saying that the other day. I'm not getting any dropped frames on my end. I don't know if it's just buffering because of where you're at. Hopefully that's the case. A lot of people, it's funny. Ionis, you mentioned dynamic mode. How come so many people have tried to steer everybody away from the dynamic mode option in AF? I don't know. I've never tried it. I've just used the wide area large. Okay, back to normal, right? Good. All right. Charles, hello, buddy. Good to see you. Hope you're well. Okay, so James, you're using back button focus. Keep it held with the bird in flight. Interesting conversation on one of the forums, or maybe it was in in the comments of one of the videos I just saw recently, talking about the mystique of back button focusing. Anyway, I know a lot of people do that, but a lot of people thought that it had some special tracking thing or whatever by using back button focus, and it doesn't. It's just the convenience of back button and being able to hold it with your thumb, press the shutter button, I guess, or whatever. Just an interesting conversation about it. There's nothing special about it. It doesn't do anything different, I think was the takeaway. Glad to hear you're feeling better, Charles. Good, man. Glad to hear it. Watching the kids and YouTube at the same time. That's one of the big things here at AP Studios, man. A lot of people turn it on and just go to work doing other things and listen to it in the background, which I think is great. I think it's fantastic. I know you're in quite often, Ike. I appreciate it, man. I really do. So Greg, say you're using autofocus eye detect in studio. Yes, I am. And this is with the Z9. I was using it with the Z6 II as well before I got the Z9. But with the Z9, it simplifies the whole process in the studio. And yes, it will lose the eye, not lose the eye. When somebody turns and the eye's out of frame, it will still focus on the head until the person turns back around, and then it immediately picks the eye up. At least I've been fortunate. It seems it works extremely well for me for that. Same thing in video. Shot video yesterday, and it was working fantastic in video. The Yaman's problem there is not uncommon, and I found it not uncommon as well in the Z6 and Z7 series. Well, not the Z7, but the Z6 series with the Z6 and the Z6 II. Shooting even in studio with the Z6 II, I found that it had a tough time sometimes keeping up with the eye. Not that I'm not caught up in that. You're shooting enough depth of field that it's so hard to tell whether it's the tip of the nose or the eye that's in perfect focus. So I wasn't really concerned about that issue, but just it hunting. It seemed like it wanted to hunt. And now this may be because I was shooting lower light in the studio doing some of the photos I was taking. That may have made a difference too. But anyway, the Z9 definitely fixed that, but it also complicated the whole process because now there's so many opportunities there for failure if you don't set the autofocus up right. I kind of like the idea of having one mode where, okay, here's the general autofocus and it works for all subjects. And I'm not talking about people, cars, boats, and animals or something like that, but just an autofocus setting that is one general setting. And there's your start point, folks. Now go out and shoot and have a good time. You may be able to tweak that with all the other multiple possibilities within the autofocus system. But if you're just going to go out and carry the camera and shoot all day long, just one mode that makes it, that simplifies it for us. I think that would be great. David's shooting 9-point dynamic and all sports stuff. Bird and flight also. Okay, great. I'm going to try it. Probably the cold weather on the messing. Yep, could be. Could have something to do with it over there, Ray. J Rod says, don't forget to hit the like button. Yeah, appreciate that. And oh, by the way, thank you, Jim, because now it is that time where I have to show my Christmas present. And folks, let me run to the little boy's room. I will be right back. Sorry, I don't have a host in here to keep it going. So hang on just a minute. I'll be right back. All right. So, hope you guys got a chance to see my Christmas present hanging on the back of my chair. Please like. It motivates me, definitely motivates me to keep going here. And subscribe if you enjoy the content, or even if you don't, subscribe. And you guys have the opportunity to change the content to whatever you want. I always open this up. We generally go into start with a topic, but we just migrate to what you guys want to talk about. So we are back. Let me catch up here and see what I missed, if anything. You and I both, Robert. You and I both, man. D Moots is busy. There's D Moots. Glad to see you in here, at least checking in, letting us know you're okay, David. Appreciate that. David Bransma, talking about the 14 to 30 f4 great lens. It is. It's what I'm on right now. It's a fantastic lens. And the little Z6 does fine. I mean, the autofocus in it in video is incredible. I don't have any issues at all in video. Nikon has done a great job in AF and video. I will say that. Fell talking about Nikon better be ready to fulfill pre-orders of the Z8 from 99% of the Z6, Z6 II, Z7, Z7 III users. Yep. Yeah, I agree. And, you know, there is a large amount of people out there that want everything in the Z9, but they didn't want the full grip body and probably a little bit cheaper camera that are waiting for a Z8, the baby Z9. And I know it sounds crazy to say that it will compete well with the Z9. And why would Nikon do that? Well, why give it away to other camera manufacturers if you're Nikon? Why would Canon? Why did Canon put such a robust autofocus system in the R7 and even the R10? Why leave it open for somebody else to grab that segment? It's crazy talk. Those days are gone. Those days of we're not going to let anything eat into our. And it was much easier. Let's face it. It was much easier back in the day with the in the F mount or DSLR world with the flagship camera bodies that did so much more than everything below them. It was easier to not cannibalize your flagship. Now I think flagship is really going to mean more battery life and just larger body. There's comment here by Ike. Also, we've been shooting SLRs for 1,000 years. The old school DSLR was a much simpler system. Mirrorless cameras are only 10 years old and complicated computers. Absolutely, Ike. Absolutely. You're absolutely right. And that's what you're seeing in the Z9. I'm sure the Canon R1 is going to be the same way. Get ready, folks. I know that camera is going to be a fantastic camera, by the way. I'm not going to dispute that at all. And I think Sony, there's something on the horizon for Sony as well. It'll be interesting to see what Sony does next in the flagship tier camera. Moving down the, I'm glad you said that, Leon. I saw your comment. Don't forget the M&Ms. Absolutely. So one of these days, M&M's going to sponsor the channel, and we're going to have an M&M fund. Yeah, it's another good point. Ike, do some trial and error. If you can't get the camera to do what you want, and it doesn't mean the camera's bad, just not a good fit for you, then, you know, try something else. I agree with that 100%. All the Nikon fanboys will be shooting me now because I said that, but it's the truth. You know, it's all about photography, period. And you should be happy using whatever you have. Yeah, I'm going to be in here, at least another hour and a half. I've got to shut it down at 3 today. So, Joe, if you want to join, by all means, hang on a second, folks. Joe, I thought I had your email, but I don't. Oh, yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. All right. Sent, Joe. Yeah, I watched his Morton Helmer just posted another video. It's been a while for him. Long video, but very good. It's not a hard system to learn. I'll throw that in there too. Yeah, good point. But I do find that the Z9, it's just, there are just so many possibilities. Now, that's just on the AF side. But then again, though, they put so many capabilities into the camera that it's going to take a while for everybody to learn to use everything in it. I mean, because they cater to certain genres or things, whether you're doing or whether you're shooting video or stills. I mean, the power zoom. It sounds gimmicky, but I've been playing with so much video lately. I want to definitely figure that out as well. I mean, there are just so many things that this camera has about it to learn. But the AF system, I will go back to, is a more difficult system to understand. It's not a plug and play, at least in my book. And now I know I'm going to catch a lot of flack. There are going to be a lot of people that'll comment after the fact talking about, well, you just don't know the camera. And I'll be the first to admit, yes, I am not an expert with the camera yet. No doubt about that. But again, I come from a long line of flagship shooter, cameras, and it is definitely not as easy as the DSLR was as far as the, as far as the Z9 goes. Yeah, Phil, I've been saving for it, but I am kind of torn now because I won't have enough for both the camera and the 85 1.2, which is, again, the lens that I've been waiting for. I really like the 50, how the 50 1.2 renders. I think it's a beautiful lens, fantastic lens. I'm just not a 50 millimeter shooter. 85 would suit me better, especially in studio. And I know people are going to say the 1.8 would be just as good. Well, yeah, it would for some studio work because you're going to shoot at 5.6 to 8, f8. And but I want it for the 1.2 because I also want to use it outside for things. And 85 suits me better. And I'm buying a 1.2 lens to shoot at 1.2 quite often, to be frank. We'll find out just how creative I can be with it. So that's a good point too, Albert. Nikon's obviously holding back the Z8 on purpose so that it doesn't have to deal with the same issue it had with the Z9 and can instead satisfy future demand with a surplus of cameras. Yeah, I don't know how much of a surplus, but there may be right up front. But I thought this after the D800. We went through such a debacle with the D800. I don't think Nikon had ever gone through anything like that up to that point, as far as the demand for a camera. But because it was the first high megapixel camera in any brand, the backlog for the D800 was tremendous as well. And I thought that, well, Nikon learned their lesson. Maybe they learned and they would do better next time. Well, they haven't since the D800. It's still been a problem. So anyway, we will see. Jake Kimmer, Chuck served our country. Let's start a Chuck Z8 fund. No, I appreciate that. No, I appreciate that. But let's not do that. But thank you very much for the thought. Yeah, and that's another good point. Photo me, Ike. Mr. Ike, he's bringing the heat today on common sense. You can literally change the size of your focus box on the Nikon Z9. You can never do that on a DSLR. That is true. That is true. And it is a new feature to learn. And I think that's where some of the difficulty comes in, Ike, because you can, there is a time and a place definitely where you want a very small box so that you're eliminating all the distractions, especially crowds, weddings. I could see that being used. A lot of different scenarios. But then again, in the studio, you'd like the whole sensor, the entire sensor to be capable of acquiring the eyes or whatever. And you can try to do that, but I haven't had any luck with it. I have to use the wide area, large box and keep the box in vicinity of where the eyes are going to be. And now you're going to laugh at me. I know. You're saying, what do you got? People running around in the studio you're trying to shoot? No, no, I don't. But as you try to reframe, you know how it is. Yeah, the 85 is for me, Phil, no doubt about it. I have the 85 1.4G, and to be honest with you, I never really liked that lens. I know people are going to call me crazy again. I like the 85 millimeter focal length. It's long enough, yet short enough for me to shoot in my smaller studio. Leon with a comment. Yeah, I think we're going to see a lot more of that, Leon, in all the brands. You're really curious to see what Canon comes up with in the R1. I'm really curious. Let's see. Yes, once you learn it, absolutely. And that's the key. And look, guys, I'm not the person everybody should look at as, here's the master of the Z9. And especially this last 6 months, it's been crazy for me trying to get out and shoot anything. But I will say, though, I'll stand by my comment earlier that it is a more difficult camera to shoot. You can shoot it just like your old DSLR, single point, autofocus, focus, recompose all day long, and it's great. But if you really want to tap into all the power of the Z9, you can't limit yourself to that. And you've got to learn how to design the focus system that works best for you. And I use that term design because if you're not a Z9 shooter, you haven't experienced all the possibilities of setting up AF to suit you like the Z9 offers. And it really does. I don't know how many different modes you could set up with the Z9. Yep, they definitely know the tsunami's coming. That's why they already have their statement ready, Phil. You know, the minute they announce the Z8, within a couple of weeks, they're going to throw the Nikon did not or underestimated the demand for this product and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, right. As if you didn't know it's coming. Let's see. Yeah, Long Rider. Yeah. No, I don't think they'll be using the A7R5 sensor. They may be using a 61 megapixel sensor that Sony produces, but under a different contract and designed by Nikon. But you're right. I don't know if it would have any impact on production for the Z8. Yeah, I agree with that, Leon. And you can. But there are, I don't know, it's hard to explain. You can set this thing up so that it's spectacular for birds in flight, say. And then that setting, that AF, believe it or not, that AF setting might not suit anything else that you're shooting, which is fine. If all you're doing is you're out shooting birds in flight, then obviously set the camera up for that and be done with it. But I'm, I'm constantly changing what I'm actually shooting. Hang on, I got to check something here. All right, sorry. But anyway, Charles says he'd like to see a 135 Z mount. I think a lot of people would like to see that, Charles, and a 105 like the not. Although a lot of people have fallen in love with the 105 macro and using it in studio work as well. But yes, there are a lot of people that like to see a 135. James bringing us back to home here. Even with a million buttons and options on your shiny camera, you still need to know what an f-stop and shutter speed is. Absolutely, James. Absolutely. Yeah, you are correct, Ike. You are correct. And that's where a lot of the confusion about the Z9 came from. And that statement right there, Ike, because the camera was rated against other cameras for bird and flight photographers, period. That was the main battle going on with the Z9. So I agree. But Nikon has done a pretty good job of tweaking some things to make that much simpler for bird and flight. I'm not a bird and flight shooter. I'm just, that's not for me. I'd like to be able to try it and play with it sometimes, but that's not for me. But that's how the camera was. That's what it was. That was the measuring stick for the Z9. I don't know how we got there without discussing all the other capabilities of that camera, but we did. And I think that hurt the camera a little bit in the very beginning. Hey, Joe Man's Land, check out your email. Looking at all the comments. Trying to catch up on the comments here, guys. Seeing the back and forth with Ike and Yaman. I think you finally got it, Ike, and that's what he was talking about. I think you finally hit it there. And there will be people that would argue with you, Ike, and say, no, they don't. Well, no, they may not suck, but that wasn't a strong point for the Z6 or Z7, my opinion, too. But in the Z9, I'm sorry, I got to stick with it. I love the camera. Don't get me wrong. I know you do too. But it is so capable. There are so many functions in that camera. I shouldn't say it's difficult. It's a big learning curve with the Z9 and everything that it will do. And even in the AF category. Mm. That would be great, Charles. That would become Nikon's new marketing scheme. Advertising through warranty cards. Mm. Mm. You know what, Yaman? I'm gonna play with the Z6 II this afternoon and see what I can add to the problem or help with the problem you're having as well. Yeah, RS. There you go. Here's another piece to this puzzle. Nikon offers 4 banks, A, B, C, and D, for video and for stills. And you can set those banks up with different settings in camera, be it autofocus mode, be it, oh, shoot, what was I going to say? Shutter speed, aperture, ISO, white balance, all these different things that you can set up in these banks. And then you can bounce from one bank to the other based on the situation you find yourself in. And now, this isn't a ding on the camera. This is a ding on me. Trying to remember what I set up in each of those banks and remembering to actually switch. And this comes with muscle memory and use of the camera, which I will freely admit I have had very little use of late. But it's a great concept, and Nikon, I think, is onto something here. It's unlike the U123 because now you have 4 banks, and you can use the thumb wheel to basically move between each bank. So this is something that everybody that's shooting the Z9 daily, I'm sure, has already accomplished and has that down to muscle memory. The only thing I don't like about it is if I change settings while in one of these banks, and then I switch to another bank, when I come back, that setting is still there. And I'd like it to default to whatever. Maybe there's a way Nikon could set that up so that you set it up initially and save what's in each bank. Then if you're using one of those banks and make some adjustments, as soon as you leave and go to another bank and come back, it defaults back to that saved setting, not what you were just recently using. Does that make sense? I think that would be really cool if they could do that. But then again, I'm not running around shooting so many different things right now that I even need to worry about the banks. All right. We've talked about this quite a few times, Stuart. I think that there is, I'm not saying Nikon USA or Nikon Corp, Nikon Japan. I'm not saying that they have people that sit around, spotters that are on YouTube just looking for any comments or whatever are made. But I think that they do dip in from time to time and listen to what's going on. And I had hoped that back last year when we were talking about Z8, Z9 and everything else, I had hoped that they were listening. And I do think that they do that from time to time, or they have their way of finding out what's going on out in the chat, not just in YouTube, but everywhere else as well. So that's why I say, when I would say all the time, if people had specific things they wanted Nikon to see, don't just drop it in the chat in the live stream. Make sure you drop it in a comment after the live stream ends, because I think there it has more opportunity to be seen by people that may be interested in what the consumers are talking about. And I would hope that they are. That's Let's see. Honesty is wonderful. I've become an expert with all my cameras at taking crappy pics. No, Charles, I know better than that. I've seen some of your photos. Oh, all right, Joe Man's Land. I see your comment there. Got it. Have I been to one of these photography conferences or shows? No, I have not. When it was up here in the Javits Center, I always wanted to go. As you know, it's not that far from me, but it seemed like every time the show came up, I was off in another part of the world. It aggravated me. But I haven't been to any of them. I wanted to get down to Imaging USA only because that's home for me, really, the Nashville area. That's where I'm going to wind up. But again, too busy with things going on here at the house. And you guys heard about some of that with the plumbing and everything else. But I am going to WPPI. So it will be a first for me, James. This will be a first to one of these shows. And I'm really looking forward to it. Tommy Brantley. Let's see. That's why you use different banks, ABC, for your settings. You like on the Z9. Yes. And I know I'm behind in the comments. This is from what we were talking about earlier. Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I really do. I just need to play with the camera more. I need to get out and shoot more because I had set that up and then I forget to jump from bank to bank. I'm so used to my DSLR where I just change the settings, all the settings on the fly. But the Z9, there are more settings to change. I mean, considering, all that it does. And James says he's yet to try setting up the banks. Yeah, and of course, this is where people talk about all the time. If you're going to do a firmware update, make sure you save all your settings on a card before you do the firmware update, so that when you come back, you can drop your settings back in, because it will erase. I guess it goes back to not default, but almost default mode in the camera. So any special settings you apply, make sure you save them before you do a firmware update. So we're back. I never found banks to be helpful. As soon as you switch to a bank and adjust your settings, it changes the bank. Yeah, that drove me crazy. So I just adjust the camera manually. And that's where I'm at too, Daryl. That's the only one thing I would say. I like the idea of the banks, but it would be nice if Nikon had a switch, a button, so that once you lock in your settings in that bank, you can save them. And any changes you make temporarily, as soon as you leave and come back to that bank, it's defaulted back to your original saved settings. I would like that. I really would. But I'm always just changing. I don't even know what bank it's in right now. I'm just changing the settings to suit what I'm shooting. That's what I was used to with the DSLR. So there you have it. Yeah, it's been a big request from the beginning, Jim. I think maybe the Z8 may be one of the first that will allow us to do that. We'll see. It would be nice. Hmm. 20 to 70 f4 kit lens and include it with the Z8. Man, there's a thought, Ike. That's a real good thought. And I've seen all the talk about the latest, the Sony 20 to 70. Everybody likes that 20 millimeter focal length a little bit more than the 24. 24 just not being wide enough for some of the things that people are doing, I guess. So, man, that's a thought. We try to get their ear all the time, Mike. We try to get Nikon's ear. Oh man, now you're scaring me, Jim. Would also be cool to set up your camera from your PC. Man, that's going way too technical for me. And save backups to your PC. Yeah, that'd be cool, I guess. Nancy says she hasn't had good luck with the banks either. I just adjust my settings every time. It never saved me any time, just messed up my photos. I agree, Nancy. It's just a muscle memory thing. I guess if you're shooting constantly all day, every day, you could build that muscle memory and know, A, B, C, and D. And not only that, but I don't even remember how I programmed A versus B versus C. So I've got to go look at everything again anyway. It would be nice if you could program a name for A, birds and automobiles or cars, people or something like that. That would even help me out. Peanut M&Ms. Absolutely. The big yeller bag. I don't even buy the little bags anymore. I don't even waste my time. So it would be the perfect vlogging lens, I guess, because 20 is wide enough at that end. And then you still got a 70 millimeter at the long end. So you could use it for everything. Good point. So a lot of comments on the banks. I think it's a great idea. So here's one of the things that, this kind of reminds me of people that don't like, I don't want to pay for that. Don't put it in the camera. It really doesn't make a difference. Being in the camera. I don't mind it being in there, even though I'm not using it. Nikon listens to us and they go back to the conference room and laugh. They probably do. I didn't know you could name them by name. Okay. I got to check that out. See, I'm learning. Thanks, RS. Let's see. Phil, I'm just going by what everybody talks about every time we have a firmware update. Somebody can probably verify it here. But yes, of course, I don't have any settings in the camera right now that are so near and dear to me that I want to save it or save them. But yes, as I understand that it will default back to whatever the default settings are when you do a firmware update. Yes, I will agree with that 100%, RS. He is very good. He did. And that's where I actually initially tried to set up the banks, is watching one of his videos when he was teaching way back in the initial videos he was doing with the Z9. Yeah, watch them 10 times or more. Again, testament to, when you pick up a Z9, and again, I'm sure the R1's going to be the same way. Get ready, because it's just a computer with a lens on it. It's amazing at how much is packed into these bodies now. Nancy says, even renaming the banks didn't help me very much. I still have to tweak my settings every time. I may as well just forget about using banks. Well, that's kind of the way I feel too, Nancy. But I know that it's just one of those things. If you spend enough time with it, it could be a time saver. Right now, it doesn't save me any time at all. It's just faster for me to reset everything based on whatever it is I'm shooting. Um, hmm. I'm sure he appreciates it nonetheless, Charles. Ike's a good man. So are you, by the way. So is everybody in here, except for Nancy. She's a good woman. I have to say that now. My wife makes sure I don't talk to the audience as if everybody is a man. I'm glad she does that. She keeps me straight. Ladies and gentlemen, that's how I should address the audience. Man, RS, I think I'm on the road to Alzheimer's as much as I forget here lately. Seraphin, how you been? Good to see you in here. Well, yeah, maybe I shouldn't be so harsh. It's just it does so much, I guess, Seraphin, and that's the thing. It does so much. There's so many things you can do with the Z9. And that's just on the still side. And the video side's just as I mean, it's amazing all the things, all the settings, everything that you can do with it. That's all. Yeah, we tell the truth. and again, I think that testifies again, and I'll testify that Ike's not a fanboy. He calls it like he sees it, and I like that. I hope everybody feels the same way. That's why I'll never be an ambassador for Nikon. You can bet on that, because I can't just say, "Oh yeah, it's wonderful, everything's great, not a problem in the world." I mean, there are always going to be issues with anything new when you're actually reviewing it. David asked what bodies Nancy's using right now. Jay Kimmer's at work. Don't get in trouble, man. Oh, man. That's great. Nancy has a Z9 and a D4, and she wants a 600 millimeter lens. Man, don't we all, Nancy? Don't we all? Yeah, I'm gonna be a commercial for M&Ms. That would be great. You know, M&Ms want to spread the word. All they got to do is contact me. Let's see. Yeah. So RS says one Saturday, Dave Moots talked about the inland marine insurance policy for gear. It was a great hit, and I got a policy this week. Well, congratulations. Cover loss, theft, dropping it in the ocean, etc., and not expensive. Well, thanks for bringing that up, RS. And I still haven't done it myself yet, but there's another testament to inland marine insurance policy for your equipment. I like to hear that. And I like to hear that, you know, there's a lot of information that's shared here in the chat with you guys. You guys are fantastic. Guys and gals are fantastic. And, you know, it's nice to know that his little discussion about it, made a difference. That's great. I need to do that. You know what? We need to get Inland Marine to sponsor some people's videos or something like that. Not me, but sponsor some channels or something like that. It's a big thing, man. When you're talking about insurance for your gear. So I'm going to do this yet. I talked to Vahagan the other day again. I'm going to talk to Vitali at Touch Life Studios. I'm going to try to get Brian, Six String Brian. He's running the event photo business. And I'd like to get, I'd like to get a portrait photographer. Ike, are you up? Are you a business now? And do a live stream. I'm going to try to put that together, do a live stream where you folks in the audience have a chance to talk to people that are actually running a photography business. Because I know a lot of people often ask, how do I get into this? How do I get into wildlife? How do I get into whatever? And I'm going to try to get all these people together for a live stream where I'm going to get out of the way and let them talk about the business of photography and then get into all the stories of photography. We assume if you want to be in business that you can actually use a camera and take a good photo. But what kind of equipment should you have, at least to start a business? And with the experts in the field, these people that are actually out there doing it, they can tell you the pros and cons of having or not having certain equipment. But again, back to everybody thinks starting a business in photography is going to be this wonderful opportunity to just go shoot, edit, and have a great time. The business side of it is so important, and it often gets overlooked. And sometimes it can take away from the whole experience of photography. So I want to get all these people together and let you all talk to them to understand what are the first 5 points about starting a photography business. And it's all going to be about the business aspect. You have to check those blocks. You don't have a choice. You must check those blocks. Unless you're just a weekend shooter that's shooting, you're not a pro shooter. If you're shooting for cash under the table, nothing wrong with that. Don't get me wrong. But if you literally want to start a photography business, I want to get these pros to come on and let them sit down and take you through what it takes to actually start that business. So I don't know if you guys would be interested in it or not. I got a lot of people that said they would the first time I brought it up. So now I'm going to try to make it happen here real soon. And one of our live streams, we're going to do that. So any thoughts that you guys have on it, I'd definitely like to hear. David Stewart's in. Yep. All cameras have flaws, and there's no such thing as a bad camera now, especially up in the prosumer, flagship prosumer, and even now down into the consumer level cameras. So, those days are gone where, don't touch this brand, don't touch that brand. Psych. Trying to get through all the comments here, folks. I hate to leave anybody out. Yeah, you're like me, Ike. We just dropped our corporation. And because we did that, I had to do something for photography. So we just developed a LLC for AP Studios. But again, my wife takes care of all that. She's a smart one. So I can't answer a lot of questions either when it comes to the actual business side of it. I know all the highlights, but I can't get into the nitty gritty and talk about the details. Yeah, Leon, Jeff's taking a bit of a break. He's still got his channel going, but he just wanted to kind of, he had been on every stream for the longest time. And I really felt bad after I thought about it. Like, wow, man, he- I know that he needed a break, and I think he's just kind of taking it easy and looking at what he can get into this year for his channel. So you can still watch his videos. I continue to watch. That's my Sunday morning. Have a cup of coffee and see what Jeffrey just dropped. All right. Yep, Jeff just posted another video Saturday. Mm-hmm. Phil says he'd be interested in something like that. Yeah, this is more about just the fact that if you had any ideas about getting into a business with photography, it doesn't matter what, because there are some of the things that are going to be the same across the board for whatever business you start. But the point is to point out things like, and what jogged my memory was the inland marine insurance. I mean, not just for your gear, but there's a liability insurance business insurance you're going to have to consider, and things like that. So to have them talk about these things, and then talk about maybe the marketing. How do you market yourself in the industry, the genre that you're wanting to work in, and then into equipment, from somebody that's doing it, their standpoint. So you understand what you should at least have to really get the business going. And then all the war stories, from them about, how it goes in being a wedding photographer. Vahagan's done a fantastic job of capturing some of those stories in his videos. So yeah, whether it's, again, event, or shoot, headshots, or, portraits, or, selling, even if you're a business and you're selling landscape photography, I guess that would count as well. But I'm thinking more of the folks that are actually out there and doing it. How many wildlife photographers are running a wildlife photography business? And I know there are a few, but is it really just selling prints or whatever? But anyway, I want to bring these guys in that are actually in the field doing it and make they are successful, so that you can pick their brains on, how do I start this? What is my first step in becoming a business within photography? So I hope everybody be interested in it. I know I'll be interested just to listen. No doubt about it. Oh, let me see. Let me get down here to the bottom. Sorry, skimming to the bottom. All right. All right. Finally got to the bottom. Jaspreet, haven't seen you in a while. I hope you're doing well. Good to see you. Rot Von Rant in here. All right. It's funny. We've been talking about some of these points here. So Matt Granger just did a video on the Canon R6. I didn't watch the video, but I saw the thumbnail for that. Told us it's simply the best camera under $2,500. Nikon better get out that Z6 III quick. Yeah, Nikon's got to do this soon. I mean, I know they know that. I just don't understand why we're not hearing anything. Nikon's become so secretive now. All right. I've made it to the bottom, even past Nancy's NASA talk. Oh, sorry about that, Nancy. I jumped right past you there. Let's see. Jaspreet, Frame Voyager. Frame Voyager ordered a new lens and got an empty box. I hadn't heard anything from him about that. Maybe that'll be a fun video to watch. Yeah, and so folks, if you didn't know, I'll throw David's comment up here just to comment on this. J-Rod Photo Art, Jim has bought a star tracker and a telescope. I don't know if you just bought the scope recently or if you already had that, but he's going all in on tracking planets now that he has a camera. And are you going to use the Nikon 1 camera, Jim? He's got a few. You guys need to check out J-Rod Photo Art. Check him out on Instagram. Check him out on YouTube. He just recently bought a Nikon 1, the old Nikon 1J. I don't know which version, J1 or whatever version he bought, but that with his, current telescope or even long lenses and teleconverters. At one point, he had a setup that was 6,400 millimeter focal length using the Nikon 1 camera. That's crazy. That is crazy. I can't wait to see what he's going to do with it, see the photos that come from it. So it sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun. Jaspreet, Nikon needs to have the Z6 III with 6K in RAW or at least 10-bit log. Yeah, it's going to have 10-bit, no doubt about it. 422 10-bit at a minimum in camera. And that's going to be the make or break point for that body, because that is going to be the hybrid shooters on the lower end of the scale as far as price goes. And a lot of people that do shoot video will be looking seriously at that camera, but not unless it has those specs. All right. All right, I just put that up there. Sorry. Fell's asking a question. Besides gear, and I know a lot of people get tired of hearing the gear, but this is the gear time of the year, so we're definitely going to have to stay in the gear time of the year. However, besides gear, what are you guys looking forward to this year? Any vacations, getaways, photography events, projects? It's a good question. It'd be interesting to see what everybody has to say, Fell. Good question. As far as me, I want to get this house sold. That's it for me this year. But beyond that, I definitely want to try to play with the studio and figure out lighting, what works best and whatever to make it more appealing. I think I got it too busy right now, but I don't know. But anyway, it'll give me a good jump start for when I get my house down south. And that's the number one priority, is to get out of the north, get down south. So that's me. How about everybody else? Okay, Long Rider. Say, I disagree a little bit, Chuck. Being their flagship, it was expected to also be a sports camera, so it should perform as folks expected, like all their D4 through D6s. Yes, I agree. Let's see. Yeah, Jaspreet, we talked about the S5 II a week ago. Yeah, it's going to be, there's so much competition out there now. Nobody can build one camera that suits everybody. And we've talked about that many, many, many times. So, but, whether it's APS-C or it's going to be 4/3 or micro 4/3, or whether it's going to be full frame or whatever. And there's always going to be people that gravitate to one of those three elements, micro 4/3, APS-C, or full frame. They're not going to buy into any other system So that kind of separates some of the competition, but price point's always going to be across the board, something that makes a camera competitive. And then, of course, the specs. And the big thing is for camera companies to be able to balance price point with specs in camera. And yeah, the Z6 III has to be a hybrid camera, in my opinion, but shoots stills extremely well, of course, because that's the bread and butter of Nikon. However, the video shooters are looking for a hybrid camera in that lower price point that does extreme things. And that's why that S5 II is appealing to a lot of people that wouldn't never have even looked at Panasonic. But with the S5 II and all the new features and phase detect autofocus, yeah, it's become very popular very quick. All right. Phil talking about maybe going to Portugal for vacation. Now, that'd be a nice vacation. Take photos there. That'd be great. David, I am coming south, man. If you're down in Alabama, I won't be too far from you. I'm going to the Nashville area, somewhere, not in Nashville, but somewhere in the Nashville area, surrounding area. I look forward to meeting a lot of people when I get down there as well. Martin's talking about, see, a lot of trips planned, southern Spain, southern Italy, Isle of Mull, and maybe something overseas in the fall. Oh, wow, man. That sounds fantastic. Nancy, we bought 2 3/4 acres on a beach in, what's that, Carabella in 2015, trying to get ready to build. We have 50 loads of dirt and sand coming this week. I'm ready for retirement. Well, congratulations, Nancy. You're building up to a great retirement there. You guys are. Sounds like a great place to be. Let's see. You know, I haven't even looked, Phil. Have you looked to see if they're going to have Photo Plus this year? And that's the big one. In what is it? October? It was in October sometime, I think, at the Javits Center. I will move right before that actually happens. That'll be just my luck. You have 2 eagles that visit regularly. That's why you want a 600 mil. I've always jonesed for a 600 millimeter lens, and now with the 600 TC that Nikon has, that's something I'm not going to see in my camera bag anytime soon. But maybe down the road, I will get a chance to get that 600 mil E lens used, of course. That might be possible somewhere down the road. Jim, order the new 2 to 600 lens. Wait, we can't. Yep. Hopefully that's going to change, Jim. I think it's going to change here in the next few weeks. We're going to hear something. David's recommending the 500 PF. Yeah, I don't own it, but I would have bought it if Nikon could have delivered it way back when they announced it. And I just moved on. But everybody loves that lens, the 500 PF. Leon talking about going to the Farne Islands. Wow. Unless it's still shut because of bird flu. Huh. Yeah, bird hit us harder than we thought, didn't it? Because I know the price of eggs went up to incredible price. All right, folks, we got Joe Man's Land just dropped into the green room. We're going to pull him in here, and then I'm going to take a break again because I got to go take something to my bride. Let's see. Joe Man's Land, how are you doing, brother?
Great, Chuck. How you doing?
Great, man. We're just in here chatting it up, and glad you joined after your meeting.
Yeah, my pleasure. Yeah, just working on a wireframe for a website today. So chat with you guys, and then got to get back to that.
Well, glad to have you in here, man. Yeah, I don't know how much you were keeping an ear to the conversation going over here, but we've been all over the place, and man, quite a bit.
Hey guys, yeah, I see Charles, J Rod. Hey guys, how's it going? Yeah, I heard you guys talking lots about third-party lenses.
Yeah, man, get in there and let's spike that conversation up again because I know that's something that you enjoy as well.
Yeah,
Not just
no,
third party,
100%.
but even old lenses and things like that and adapting them. So I'm going to turn you loose for a minute while I run and grab something, and I will be right back. You're in charge of the ship, man.
Yeah, all right, sounds good, Chuck. I'll try not to sinker while you're gone.
I'll be.
Sounds good. Hey, got a comment from Faye. Looks like you're working from home almost everyone. Yeah, 100%. No, so I'm hybrid, so I work 2-3 days per week from the office. Then rest of the days I'm here. I definitely like working from home more. It allows me to, have your own setup and you don't have to worry quite so much about having to unplug your computer nonstop. We've got floating workstations, so it's nice to have the same place to come every single day. And actually, I used to teach online, so this was kind of my ecosystem, 8-9 hours a day before I transitioned back into marketing. Yeah, it's pretty nice here in Canada. I heard some of you guys earlier asking about the weather here, and it's it's a pretty nice day. It's pretty sunny out, so no complaints there. I got the f-mount 200 to 500. Yeah, I haven't tried that lens before, actually. I recently picked up the 70 to 200 2.8 f-mount lens. I think it's a version 1, and I really like it. It replaced my 70 to 300 4.5 because I've got a wedding gig coming up, and I thought, the bride will probably kill me if there's no separation between her and the background. So pick that one up, and yeah, I'm loving it. If you guys are super into adaptive glass, that's kind of where I live. I'd say I'm kind of the opposite of what Nikon's going after in terms of their consumer, right? We all know that they're going after a higher price point with their sport and performance lenses. Z9's a great camera, great value, but still, $5,000-$6,000 camera used. So, that's not really where I live. I'm on the Z6 with the FTZ2 adapter. I use 17 to 35, 51.4, and then also the, like I said, the 70 to 200 2.8. And then Faces, I see you used to teach or used to teach. No wonder you speak so well. Oh, thanks. Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, so I used to teach for an online school in China. So I actually spent about 3 years living overseas in South Korea. So I worked in marketing as well as education while I was living there. Came back right in the middle of COVID. I've never seen the airport that dead. It was an international flight, 17 hours, and there's 2 people on the plane. It was crazy. Felt like I was flying to Saskatchewan. Just kidding. But yeah, when I came back, there wasn't really any work. So I ended up moving into online education, and I worked for a really great school out of Beijing there for about a year and a half before I kind of transitioned back into the Canadian workplace. And it was great. Pay was good. Team was really supportive, but the hours were just kind of non-conducive for having a relationship. And now I'm engaged because I was working, I don't know, 5-6 hours a night. And that would be, anywhere from 8 p.m. up until 3-4 in the morning, which was totally fine. But, not really what I wanted to do. So it took me a little while, but back in marketing now. And yeah, it's great. Faces, I wish I could speak that well. One of my flaws. Hey, no, you just got to practice. With any of the YouTube videos I make, you guys don't see all the mistakes I make behind the camera, right? Like, and even when I'm speaking, I used to script things a lot more, but now these days I just try to make it more of a conversation, right? I know a lot of the bigger YouTubers like Hapoya and McKinnon, like it's all so organized, but it seems like a conversation. I don't know how they do that. So my solution was just making it a conversation, right? YouTube's not my source of income or something I do for money, but I'd like to Faces, you could be a sports announcer. Well, I used to do a bit of voiceover stuff. We could maybe do like the voice from Boxing, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, let's get ready to rumble. Yeah, I definitely used to do stuff like that. And the kids used to enjoy it as well. They would always be like, why is Mr. Joe using weird voices that we don't know? Because, of course, pop references, we try to, make the kids laugh. But, of course, we've got our own pop references in North America that don't necessarily resonate with a Chinese audience. So, oh, the preview guy. Yeah, I remember the preview guy. Coming to theaters this year. One band, one memory, played by Liam Neeson. Okay, what's longer sign? The 600 TC. Oh, okay, I haven't tried that teleconverter. The only teleconverter I've tried so far was the 2X converter that came with the 70 to 200. And I actually like it. It's pretty good. It obviously makes the form factor, that lens, just like that much bigger, especially because the FTZ2 adapter is just a chunk of plastic. But, if you're mounting it up the tripod, it looks pretty good. And the autofocus actually isn't half bad. And okay, Jay Kimber says, I would love to have my workstation to a window with a view. Love it. Thanks. Yeah, I appreciate it. Where I used to live before, it was technically 1.5 bath. Oh, I've got my lock changers coming over. Chuck, I'll hand it back over to you for a sec. I'll be right back. I just got to let the lock changers in. Just give me a sec.
All right, brother. No problem. All right. Let me jump up here to Leon's response to Long Rider. 600 TC is really tempting me back over to Nikon. If it was so hard to get a hold of, I think I'd go for it. Yeah. I was long at 600 F4 GM to go with my A1, but now not so sure. Yeah, that 600 TC is a fantastic looking lens. Everything I have seen with it. Of course, David Moots is waiting for his 600 TC. You're back.
I'm back. Yeah. So we're having the whole apartment rekeyed right now. So just the guys around just on the other side there, just want to let them in to do that.
Yeah, we're talking about the 600 TC. What a fantastic lens. The 400 TC as well. Man, I mean, it's just so convenient having that built-in TC, and it doesn't degrade the image at all, hardly, if at all. So
that's awesome. Yeah, having it built in must make a huge difference. There's less separation with the elements, so that's awesome.
Long Rider still got his 600 F4. He's all in for white, or all in for a while. So, and Long Rider has some spectacular photos, by the way, folks. I got to tell you, he's a great guy to talk to.
That's awesome. Chuck, have you tried adapting any of that Sony glass onto your Nikon system before?
Yeah, I tried my 400 2.8. It's a D lens, though. And it's a fantastic lens still today. But I had a problem with it mounting, wanting the FTZ adapter sticking. I mounted the FTZ adapter and then put it on the Z9, and I just didn't get any results from it. I don't know why. I don't know whether it was the FTZ or what, but nobody else had talked about that problem. Everybody else that's mounted older lenses, AFS lenses with the FTZ, hadn't had any trouble. I also did it with my 200 F2, and I still had a problem. So I don't know if it's the FTZ adapter or what. Maybe I should get the new one. I have the old FTZ one, but yeah, man. And when I put it on the 400, it wouldn't come off.
Oh, no.
And I'm thinking, man, I'm going to ruin either the FTZ or the lens or both here trying to get this thing off. But I did finally get it off. But yeah, that's about it. I haven't even mounted any of my other F-mount glass to the Z9 yet, or the Z6 too. So.
Oh, yeah, that's fair. Yeah, it's I don't have any experience using the FTZ1 myself. Like when I got into it, like the FTZ2, it just come out, so I used that. But I've heard some complaints about the FTZ1, especially with the tripod mount being where it is. Like it's really hard to mount it on like a gimbal or anything like that. I mean, I feel like when Nikon first came out with the FTZ1, they were afraid of the connection between the F-mount glass that's heavier and the Z camera itself. So I feel like they put that there as sort of like a crutch just to be safe, so you could like put it on a tripod. But yeah, I've heard similar horror stories, Chuck, where things get stuck, they don't come off, and you're just like, man, like why is this happening? It's like a $200 mistake attached to my lens.
Yeah, yeah. And Daryl, thanks, man. We're gonna have to get together. We're gonna have to pick a day where we can just get together for at least an hour or two and just chat. And yeah, I'd like to try the FTZ two just to see if maybe that might be an issue. It shouldn't be, because it's just I mean, well, it's straight through and just pins for data is all it is, to carry data. So I don't know. Maybe that's the issue. Maybe it isn't. But I'd like to get together and try that. Yeah, Long Rider. Everybody love to see more of your photography, buddy. And so I want you all to get on Long Rider. I've tried to get him on the show, and I think he's getting closer and closer to actually joining us here in the panel. So you guys get on Long Rider. So he'll come on. Maybe we can get him to share some of his photography when he does that. So looking good in the background there, buddy, with the cactus and the flamingo. I like it.
Thanks. The shameless YouTube plug. Yeah, it looks better when it's darker out. Like I was saying to the guys while you were on break there, I used to teach online. So I used to have this, like these lights all change color and stuff. And that's what I always get the kids to say is like, Bob, if you listen, you can make the color pink or whatever color you want. And then that would really get them to to pretend to listen anyways. I don't know. They would always just ignore me. I had this one kid, Chuck, that I taught once, and I think he was my favorite student of all time because the kids always pick their English name, right? So like it might be like Bob, Tom, whatever. Usually his normal name. This kid picked the name Jeep. So I wanted to know why. Why did you pick the name Jeep? So I said, Jeep, like, do you like the vehicle, the Jeep? He's like, what is? And I'm like, well, it's like a car. It's nice. He's like, no, I like sound of Jeep. And I was like, all right, this isn't a language gap. This is a ditch digger right here. And that kid was a rock star. And I remember, I think it was like our fourth class, his grandfather started doing half naked Tai Chi behind him in the background. And I didn't think he could see me. So I'm like, Jeep's grandpa, I see you. And then he just looks me in the eyes and goes deeper. And I'm just like, why is this a thing? Why is he so naked and confident on camera? I think he must have an OnlyFans account or something.
Oh man. Hey, so what do you have in the works for us down the road as far as your adapted glass? You're a holdout. You're a holdout, man.
I am a holdout
on the whole mirrorless thing, and that's fine. Don't get me wrong, that's fine. But because it's always interesting seeing your videos when you're actually talking about these lenses too are always so energetic and entertaining as well. Which, even though I'm not an old glass shooter, it's I still enjoy watching your videos.
Thanks, Chuck. Well, I mean, yeah, I used to have the 35-1.8S as well as the 26-2.8 like SE lens, and I loved them. They were great lenses, but I'm not a working professional in the sense that like photography, videography is my main source of income, right? Like I get gigs every now and then, but for the most part, my photo and video stuff is just part of my marketing job. So I buy all my own kit, right? And that's why I end up selling those two lenses so I could build out what I have. And, my ideal scenario would be if Nikon sent me a Z9 and then I got to mount all this old glass on the Z9 because I want to see how the autofocus works on there. But, the Z glass is definitely superior. Like that's why I always say in my videos, like, I'm not here saying that this is a replacement, right? Because I don't think it is. But for the price and what you get, like the quality of the imagery is just awesome. And honestly, the autofocus, at least on the Z6, which, the autofocus isn't going to be great, even if you have like the newest and greatest lens.
Right.
I didn't find that it was that much worse. Like it's narrowly worse. And like, I mean, yeah, my 17-35, because I bought it, like it was beat to shit, so I paid the price for it. You can hear the motors of the focus motor on my Rode VideoMic Pro if I'm like super close to the camera, but generally speaking, I find like it's not a big deal.
Yeah, well, Nikon Canada, if you're listening, which I'm sure you aren't, and I got to figure out how to tap into Nikon Canada now because I want to see you get a Z9 to do that. I think those would be some great videos. I know a lot of people would love to see that, you adapting all these lenses to the Z9. So
Thanks.
we got to figure out how to tap into Nikon Canada. And Nikon Canada actually does a great job of repping Nikon. They do. Their videos are always either very instructional or just entertaining. You know, Nikon USA, take a note. You could do that too. Okay.
Yeah, that's kind of cool. Nikon Canada really focuses a lot on like the nature aspect and like really hits the national parks, which is great. And I feel like a lot of the stuff they do, it resonates with a lot of like even hobbyist shooters because they're like, oh, I could totally go do that on the weekend. Like I know the tour group you did this through, right? So it's an accessibility piece as well, which is nice for sure.
Well, I'd love to see that happen, man. And, for those of you that haven't gone over and checked out Joe Man's Land on YouTube, make sure you do. I think, maybe something you'd be interested in as well. And especially when it comes to third party or old lenses. Joe does a great job of showing what he's playing with next, as far as those lenses go. And yes, they do work. And I was talking about earlier, third-party lenses have come a long way in the last few years. Even on the Chinese brand lenses, they have become a big hit with a lot of people. And talking about Diana Ishii the other night, she's mounted a TT Artisans lens on her Leica. I'm sure the Leica community just went crazy when they heard that.
Oh God, that's magical. I remember that there was a guy a while ago that did something like that with one of those. God, it was like that medium format one that's basically got a plastic lens. God,
Yeah.
Yeah, he took one of those and stuck it on a Leica. It actually looked pretty good. Like, it's not bad. But no, TT Artisans is actually really underrated. I mean, in the world of manual focused third party, like, why not? Like, same thing with Viltrox. Viltrox, especially right now with the lack of third party support for the Z system, I would say is some of the best value lenses you can get for the Z mount if you're wanting actual Z mount lenses.
And Vahagen's been doing a good job of, highlighting some of those lenses as well here recently. And I think it's great. I love to see all the third-party glass out there because, third party picks up where brands leave off, I think. And, or if brands can't produce those different focal lengths fast enough. So that and Tamron, I mean, over the years, has done a fantastic job, but even better in the last few years as well. So is there something going on? Is there something in the water where they're able to build better glass? I mean, they're actually, you got all the old artisans, Nikon and Canon, especially, that have, built their own glass for so long, lenses that is, but with their own glass. And we always thought, well, maybe it's just in the artisanal work of these brands that are able to develop this glass, this premium glass. But it seems, China's caught up pretty quick because, I mean, the lenses look fantastic. They actually do.
Oh, 100%. Well, and I think, like, I can't speak to Canon, but at least Nikon, I think they were trying to take sort of the Apple model where it's like Apple makes everything for themselves. There's no third party, right? Closed circuit computer, or even Nespresso, for instance. Like Nespresso really limits the amount of third party maker of their pods as much as they can, right? So I feel like Nikon maybe was trying to do that. And, I can see the value in it because, like, definitely, like, one of the things that made me come to Nikon in the first place was the glass and having a really good ecosystem that you could operate in. But with the lack of more affordable lenses, at least that they've released, I'd say in the last 2-3 years, probably, like, it's just they just haven't really caught up lens production wise in the Z system as much as they could. I think, like, the pancake lenses were their first foray into that, and that was awesome. But, like, there's no zooms, there was no budget telephoto, there wasn't like an all-around kit lens. Like, I mean, now you can get the f4 pretty cheap, but
well, I guess I should throw Fuji into the mix as well.
I love Fuji.
Long-time lens maker as well. But and I'm not dissing the Sony community at all, because Sony has found a way. I mean, look, let's face it, Sony was never seen as a lens maker, glass maker. But they've done a phenomenal job with outsourcing too. striking up a coalition with Zeiss. So yeah, man. I mean, it's just like camera bodies now. It's hard to find a bad one out there anymore. I mean, everybody just seems to be knocking it out of the park here recently in the last few years. And you think that has to do with mirrorless? Could mirrorless have promoted, a higher standard or something? I don't know, but I mean, what are your thoughts?
I that's a great question, Chuck, and I don't know if it's so much mirrorless as it is the consumerism market that we have now that's just blown up in the last few years. Like iPhones, how many of those do they release per year, right?
Yeah.
I feel like that amount of competitiveness in the market has really pushed producers to keep making new camera bodies to compete against each other, right? And I mean, for the price right now, and at least for the quality, like if I was telling someone to get a new camera, I would say get an XH2 or an XH2S, like really, like for the price. And I mean, I know it's not full frame, but with the 40 megapixel sensor on the at least on the XH2, I mean, like that's crazy. Like Fuji has come quite a long ways in a short amount of time. And I mean, I used to shoot with an XT20, and that was my main shooter for about 2 years, and I loved it. Like, and the thing was funny though is I didn't have a single Fuji lens. Like I was only using adapted vintage glass, and people loved the look, especially with the film simulations, right? And I feel like Nikon's color science is pretty close in terms of like the quality out of camera, which is great, but at least in terms of value offerings, I mean, I don't like Panasonic maybe comes pretty close, but Fuji I think is really untouched in that space right now. Especially because I mean, you can get 8K on a 40 megapixel sensor. I mean, yeah, if you start going side to side, you're gonna get the rolling shutter. But I mean, most 8K cameras, I think, right now are suffering from that, anyways. So
rolling shutter, in my opinion, is so overrated.
It is.
But it's like a standard. Everybody wants to rate everything by rolling shutter. I mean, how often does rolling shutter really interfere with anything that you're doing? It's not like we're shooting Netflix series.
Exactly. We're just shooting for YouTube
or professional commercials or something like that.
Yeah.
So how much, I guess what I should say is, how much does it affect anybody out there in the chat or, that happens to be listening or whatever? I don't think it does. I don't think anybody's really worried about rolling shutter, but that seems to be always a big point to discuss when we're talking about new bodies, especially with video. I understand it for, sports photographers, catching a bat that's straight instead of warped, or a golf club, or, maybe some other things in stills. But in video, I mean, I just don't know if it's even worth discussing unless you're looking to do professional videos for something. But then again, why not then go to a cine camera? I mean, if it's that critical, then although the Z9 and the A1 both fare well when it comes to not having the effects of rolling shutter. I mean, it's there, but it's so indescript that it doesn't really bother anybody. I never knew what it was. I kept hearing people, this is early on, in the video days, hearing people talk about rolling shutter, and I kept looking at, well, I don't even notice it. What's the issue? And then somebody pointed it out, and I saw it in a video where the telephone poles were all leaning one way, as far as going the car. I said, I would never even noticed it if somebody hadn't said anything. It didn't bother me. But then again, I'm not looking at it from the same point of view that most people are. So.
Oh, anyway. 100%, Chuck. And like, I used to notice rolling shutter on my XT20 if I was in a bus pointing it out the window. That was the only time I would ever see it. And like, yeah, for the price, like, it's a small price to pay, really. And, for the most part, usually it's just sitting talking head stuff, and you're not videoing Formula One going by every weekend, right? So
yeah, Jonas, and I hadn't even considered that, but you're absolutely right. And I think that's one of the things, and I haven't seen, I've heard good things about the A1, but in the Z9, I can assure you the EVF in the Z9 is a game changer for me. I don't know how it is across the board as far as all other brands go or anything else, but you don't experience that. You don't experience any blackout. The scan rate on that EVF is incredible in the Z9. Not to mention that you can actually change the brightness in the Z9, so you can adapt it to what suits you for the conditions that you're shooting in. So maybe we're getting away from that. And again, I think all this becomes more common in cameras as we go down the road. I think everybody's going to wind up again. That isn't going to be one of the things that we can start evaluating or rating or comparing cameras for EVF. I think everybody's catching up on that real quick. So yeah, I understand what you're saying. Let's see. All right, man. Yeah, anybody that pans with the EVF as far as that goes, yes, I agree, Yaman. I agree. That's one of the things the Z9 does real well, though. And I'm not saying the A1 doesn't. I don't know anything about the Canon R3, R5, or anything. I'm just basing this off my own experience with the Z9 and what I hear on the internet, knowing that half that's wrong half the time because it's just fanboyism kicking in. But I really believe that we overrate the whole rolling shutter issue.
Yeah, no, 100%. And as well, like some of the older cameras, you know, if you're just wanting to do photos, like the sensors really, like the megapixel count hasn't changed that much, especially if you're looking at Fuji, right? Like I think they've had the same X-Trans 26 megapixel sensor for 4 or 5 years, right? I mean, now they're starting to offer stacked sensors as well as the 8K one, but you know, that's everything as well, is if you're just wanting a strict photo camera, no video, I mean, you know, you can pick and choose whichever one you want. You're going to get pretty much the same image, at least. The autofocus has obviously improved over the years, but actually, Chuck, if you'll humor me, would it be okay if I share my screen for a second?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Hold on. I'm just going to make this a little bit bigger. I have none of these images are actually in my editor right now, but I thought you guys might like this. I have some old photos I used to that I've held on to from when I used to live in Seoul, and all of these were taken with vintage glass on an XT20, and they're kind of fun. They're fun to share. There, you guys able to see? Okay.
Looks fine on my end.
Perfect. All right. So just a second. There's lots of crappy ones in here. Like this one, for instance, like you can tell there's fungus on that lens. It was shot wide open. Like it's just like there's no recovering this. I don't care if you're using Luminar or any AI one. There's no fixing it. But like all these softer images, I feel like they're still kind of fun. You know, like it's a nostalgic look. It's a budget camera and solution, but you know, you can get some pretty cool images without having to break the bank necessarily. And this was all shot in full manual.
It's filmic. It's actually looking a lot like film.
Yeah, 100%. This was just with the standard color profile. This is no editing, just straight out of camera. I think this was with the 50-1.4, I believe, the Canon FD lens. Or like this one, it's hell out of focus in a ton of different spots, but I don't know. And I look at this, I think, what's going on in there? What could be happening? See, blurry images are art, Chuck. They're art. Yeah.
That's great, man. You know, it's funny you mentioned that because the other night, John Ishii was talking about he had to sell, what was it, a Voigtlander lens that he had? He said it was too sharp. I've never heard of anybody say
I've never had that problem with any of my lenses. 100%.
That's a great comment, though. It's too sharp. I had to sell it. But, you know, again, sharpness can be overrated as well often. I'm not saying all the time. Obviously, there's a need for sharpness in glass. But some glass has a character. We've talked about this many times. And it may not be super sharp, but it just has a character, you know. And that's what I'm looking for in these photos you're showing. Go ahead.
Oh, 100%. Well, and even for people, like you can get some really fun, like soft, but not too firm of an image, right? And like, it's fun. Sorry, this is Pete. Pete's a unique person. That's me. Yeah. Like this one. This one's like sharp enough, but not sharp to the point where like you can see every detail.
Yeah.
But yeah, and you know, it's just, yeah, I don't know. My whole point of sharing this isn't to show my blurry photos. It's just to say, like, you know, you don't have to get autofocus. Like you can totally just rock with focus peaking and just, you know, have some fun with it. And, you know, shooting with this camera was really what got me into photography. I had a 7100 before this, and it was a great camera, but like it didn't really push me to try out new things, or really learn what is an aperture, what is shutter speed, and like any of that kind of stuff. Which after shooting on a Fuji, it's like, okay, I know exactly why my photos suck, because I didn't nail the settings. Right. So yeah, anyways, here, I'll stop.
Well, some of this too is, this is the art in photography. It doesn't have to appeal to everybody, because art doesn't appeal to everybody, every style or whatever. But we've gotten away from at least talking about the art in photography. And, I like something that's artistic, creative, or whatever, rather than just a super crisp, sharp picture. Nothing wrong with that either. I like that as well. But, often we just get away from, well, there's a vignette. I kind of like the vignette. I'm one of those weirdos. I kind of like the vignette sometimes in a photo, whether it's natural or imposed.
Oh, 100%. And actually, you guys will like this. There was this young guy I traded with a couple days ago. I had this old Mamiya Secor and I don't know, a couple other lenses, and I was just like, I already shot my review, so I didn't really want to keep them. So this guy traded me this, I think it's just a Zenit, but hold on, guys, just a second. I just gotta let the guy in with the keys. 1 second, I'll be right back.
Yep. Yeah, I'm watching the chat over here, guys, and great chat going on, talking about, on the rolling shutter subject here. I have shot hummingbirds with my D5 and D8, actually D800. I've got to find some of those photos. And I really didn't have a problem, believe it or not. That's weird. I can't remember. I got to find those. I haven't pulled all the external drives out yet to upload on my new RAID system, but I'll find those and I'll have to look and see if maybe I somehow missed that. But all right, Charles, thanks for being in here. Now I got to go here in about 5 minutes myself. I've got to run an errand and I'll have to be taken off. But yeah, we got about 5 minutes, Joe. So I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Okay, cool. Yeah, this. Isn't this the weirdest lens you've ever seen?
Yeah.
It's an Industar. So it's a 50 mil 3.5, I think. Yeah, and it works on the M42 mount on the Z6. It actually works, no vignetting or anything. Like, Nikon should take a play out of their book. This is the ultimate pancake lens. Like, I could fit 20 of these in like one sleeve on my pocket. It would be awesome.
Is that a fixed aperture?
No, it's variable.
Okay.
It's actually kind of fun. The aperture ring is stopless. It's at the very front, so you can like.
I mean, it's not like there's enough room for an aperture ring.
Yeah, I know. Well, like honestly, some of this old Russian stuff is just awesome. Like I was at this farmers market a few weeks ago, and there's this older, I think he's Russian gentleman, and he has all the weirdest shit. And he had this one that was, you guys have probably seen it, the one that looks like a gun, and it's like on a monopod, and then you can mount your camera on it. It looks like a Kalashnikov. It's the weirdest thing I've ever seen. And it was like, I would love this, except I feel like it probably wouldn't go over well for street photography. Like I might not end well. Yeah, but Chuck, do you have any cool new videos coming up like outside of the streams on your channel? Anything that we should be knowing about as eager fans of AP Studios?
Yeah, I am. Well, it's all live streams right now, but I'm getting ready to launch my film debut. I say getting ready. Getting ready for me is in the next 4 or 5 months. But I am going to do some videos, a few videos, and I am not the person to review unless you just want a down-home approach to a review on something, which I might do, depending on what gear I pick up here in the next few months. And just from an amateur photographer's point of view, this is what I think, and here's what it does, and here's what it renders. I was talking to Vahagan about that the other day. One of the things I like about what he's begun to do is, have a story, not just a review. Here are all the specs. You can get the specs off B&H. Just go pull up the piece of equipment, and you can get all the specs or whatever. Or just watching a promotion video from the manufacturer. But as far as video goes, especially in the video realm, Don't just talk to me about what this video camera does. Make a video with some kind of a story behind it, and hook me that way, and then tell me what you used and how you used it, and then I know what the camera's capable of. I don't see enough of that on YouTube right now. There's one guy that comes to mind, Make Art Now, and what's his name? Is it?
Oh, I know the guy you're talking about,
Josh.
the Canadian guy. Yeah, he's awesome. Based out of Toronto, so cool.
He did the Suray. Oh shoot, which lens that they were promoting at the time? Anamorphic lens. And when you watch the video, the review of that lens, you didn't even know it was a review until you're 3/4 of the way through.
The video is the review. That's what's so cool about it.
Exactly. And that's what sold that lens to me. I didn't buy it, but I really wanted it, thinking, man, look at this anamorphic lens and look what it's doing and things like that. It was just fantastic. I'd like to see people do that more on YouTube. And, who knows? I may dabble in trying to do something like that myself. But that's it for me. I mean, I'm trying to remain consistent in the live streams right now. Just to get through this move. Once I get the move done, I have a studio space set up at the new home. Then I can actually settle down and start doing more. Right now, it's just trying to keep up with life and this at the same time. And it's working out. It just may not be as glamorous here on the stream as it should be or can be, but we're going to get there. We're going to get there as soon as I get out of Connecticut and down to Tennessee. Because that's my plans. But how about you? What's on the forefront for you?
Oh, that all sounds great, Chuck. I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of content you make in Tennessee. Because Nashville, so many cool spots to take photos. Like, it's great city. I got a bit of stuff coming up on Sunday. We got Lunar New Year's, obviously, for anyone that's of Asian descent. So I'm going to be heading out to do some low light tests with the Z6, and it's actually going to be kind of like what you're talking about. I'm not going to really be talking at all. I'm just going to film. With a couple different f-mount lenses on my Z6 just to kind of showcase the low light capabilities of the camera. And then, I'm sitting on a couple of videos right now. One's a review of the F70. I got it for free from the camera store. I'm going to do a whole freebie series, actually. But the film didn't really turn out too good, so I kind of feel like doing it again. It's like, it was bad. I got the scans back, and I was like, well, I guess I know why that film was free, because the film was free, too. I picked it up. It's like, big woof. Like, I feel like I'm not doing the camera justice, So, I'll be doing that. I'm in discussions with Vahagan right now. We might be jumping on a video together just to talk a little bit about the differences between F-mount and Z-mount class. Not really saying one is better than the other, but just kind of a discussion about those pieces. So that will be fun. And then, some shootouts as well with some guys that are in South Korea. That's going to be upcoming. I might have a road trip through the mountains in June as well. So we're doing some stuff around that. Yeah, it's going to be fun. Like for me, the YouTube stuff just kind of fits with my day, right? So like even the one I dropped yesterday, that was like a 13-minute video all about F-mount. I was just out working at a cafe that day, like remotely. So I was just like, all right, I'll just take my camera bag with me and shoot. So that's kind of the theme of the content, I guess. It's reflective of whatever my week happens to be, right? But consistency is the key, like you're saying, right? So I've been trying to put out a video a week, and I've been doing that for the last 6-7 months, and it's
And I got to say this, between you and, everybody out here, a lot of people in the chat, you, Vahagan, Touch Life Studio, Z Wade Photo, J-Rod Photo Art. I'm having a hard time keeping up with all the videos you guys are dropping, by the way. So I'm walking around with my phone in my pocket, listening to them at least, so I can at least make a comment or something, because I do, you guys show up here, and I appreciate that. And I want to return the favor, but also I do enjoy, what you guys are doing. It's just hard to keep up with the number that are rolling out right now. I'm surprised. People are really, really producing some content, and it's good content. So,
thanks, Chuck. Appreciate it. And
so folks, sometimes you may just get a like and not a comment. I just want to let you know.
No, that's good, Chuck. Well, I mean, like you said, it's a community, right? And you create a space for us to come and talk, which is the big thing, right? And it also keeps us motivated to producing videos, right? Like some of the ideas I've had for videos recently have been from you and Vog, and just conversations and getting the ball rolling. Like even talking about the new CES release lenses. I've never covered anything that's like current. I only talk about the past. So I was like, man, I should.
Well, but that's the great thing is that you can get whatever you want on YouTube, to include a lot of hatred if you want. But
Oh
but
yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
and if everybody was doing the exact same thing, then what use would there be for so many people, on YouTube? So yeah, it's nice to see the variety. And again, I like that about what you're doing with all these lenses and things. I think it's cool. And I got to get, that said, I've got to get Albert Jimenez back on the channel, or just get him to start a YouTube channel with all his adapters and things like that. There's so many people that'd be interested in that.
Oh,
But,
100%.
again, you find all these different personalities in the YouTube world, or folks like you and Albert, myself, and Vahagan, and Vitali, and you name it, Hafoto, and everybody has something a little bit different that everybody or other people want to see. So anyway, that's one of the things, and I definitely want to do that here on the channel, is keep mentioning all these different Claire's School of Photography. Just Vahagan just found her, and all these different people. Go see them and check them out. See what fits and what doesn't in your your YouTube whatever repertoire.
Yeah, whatever fits in your daily playlist when
Yeah.
you're at the gym, just slaving on the bike, just dying. And it's like, man, I need to watch someone that's like not super happy in that moment, because I'm not happy. So if I'm watching like Peter McKinnon or Sam Newton, I'm just like, screw these
Yeah.
guys. They're so happy.
Yeah,
Why are they
yeah.
so happy? Right. And then it's
Yeah.
like later on when I'm happy, it's like, okay, perfect. So yeah, the content has to match kind of what you're
Yeah.
doing. And I think that's the cool thing about YouTube, is it is such a free space to express yourself and
Yep.
get stuff out there. It's a ton of fun. Well, maybe Chuck, at some point, maybe we'll do a lens shootout. We could do like whatever
That'd be fun.
Z. Yeah, whatever. Like once you're in Nashville, we could do like your favorite 50 mil Z lens against
Yeah.
my 51.4, and then we could do like voting on Instagram to see who wins.
Yeah, there you go. It'd just be fun doing it. And that's the
Yeah,
whole thing.
exactly. Yeah.
Entertaining and make
Yeah.
it entertaining. Yeah, absolutely. Hey, Joe, I got to go. And to everybody in the audience, I have to go somewhere, but sorry to bring you in at the latter part of the
No,
stream. Joe,
my
I
pleasure to be
appreciate
here.
you
Thanks for having
joining.
me.
It always makes it so much better when I have somebody in here rather than me just up here droning on and on and on and trying to read comments. I love all the comments, but I like having a panel up here that will jump in as well. But thank you very much, Joe. And thank you to everybody in the chat, everybody that came in today. I really appreciate you being here as always. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you will, please. And my wife's down here now. She can hear me saying it, so she knows I did that. All right. So anyway, thanks again, folks. I'll be back Saturday night as always. And Vahagan has asked me if he can make my thumbnail, and I'm going to see if he still wants to do that. So I'm going to find out what a creative thumbnail looks like rather than my boring, sheet of paper with scribbling on it. But I hope you guys will continue to follow.
It's art.
It's art. Yes. It's art. It always goes back to art when it's out of focus. It's art.
Exactly. Right. It's totally subjective, right? If Picasso
Absolutely.
can do it, we can too. He was
But
just a
I'll turn
blind
it over to you,
photographer.
Joe, to say your goodbyes if you like. Go ahead.
Oh,
Tell
thanks,
us
Chuck.
what's up.
All right. Well, thanks for having me as always. Super great to see all the awesome comments in the chat. Without you guys, obviously, the discussion would just die because I would just keep telling weird stories about children named Jeep. So thank you so much for that. That's great. And, everyone, check out Chuck's channel. If you're new to the chat, go to AP Studios. He's got lots of great content. It's really fun watching these live casts back. I know that sometimes I'm like driving somewhere and I'll turn it into a podcast, right? That's how I kind of take in the information. So, if you're just looking for fun conversations, talking about a whole bunch of different stuff, it's a great space, and stay positive, everyone. There's been a few live casts where certain individuals get a little too fired up, and we're all passionate, right? We're all passionate people.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, we're all creatives, and we're all here for the
Yeah.
same thing, which is to share our passion. So, just keep it positive, be happy, and check out Chuck's stuff. And if you want to see a bunch of weird adapted lenses, come on over my channel. There's going to be a lot of weird shit coming out for the rest of the year. So thanks for having me, Chuck. And yeah, that's about it for me.
All right, brother. You take care. Everybody in the chat, thanks again. See you Saturday night at 9 p.m. Eastern here on AP Studios. All right, folks. That's it for me. I'll talk to everybody later. Thank you.